Thank you for joining us today. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I trust that we're all doing great. I trust that we're all doing well. Good morning. Good morning, Godwin. Good morning, every single person. Can you just kindly go to the chat room? Because I believe that all of us are super excited for things that we're going to be learning today. So I want everybody to go to the chat room and drop your name, your organization, where you're joining us from, and your expectation for today. Just kind of go to the chat box. Tell me your name, your organization, your location, and your expectation. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a delight to have you on the call. Yes, I'm waiting for your response. Please, if you have anybody that you know that should be here and you believe that they'll get to learn a lot of things from this, please ensure to send a link to them. Ensure that they join us on this call. Good morning, Mr. Shei Peters. It's nice. It's nice to have you here with us today. Good morning, Mr. Ibrahim. Oh, it's so good to have you joining us today. Please, everybody, go to the chat room. Let me know where you're joining from, your organization, and your expectation. Most importantly, your expectation for today. Good morning, Janet. How is Ghana today? All right, so I officially welcome you to the relaunch of our SDG Champion Certification course, and we've themed it Unlock the Power of Sustainable Impact and Leadership. I'm still waiting to see our expectations in the chat box. So that at the end of today, we'd be able to review it and see and know if your expectations were met. So today, our speaker, our trainer, more like it, is Dr. Olumide Odejide, fondly called Boss. Yes, he is such an amazing professional with million and zillions of years of experience. And personally, I'm super excited to learn from him, because every time I get to learn from him, it's not just theoretical, but it brings things to perspective. And we know that when it comes to SDG, as it were, we know that there are a lot of problems and we don't necessarily understand how to implement. So I'm sure that for me, that's my expectation, to really know how to implement certain things, certain solutions across different sectors and across all the SDGs. So permit me, while I read his bio, because while we're waiting for other people, I will just go ahead and read his bio, introduce him, and I'm sure that today is going to go very well. Yes, so Dr. Orlando Lumide Odejide.
Are you sure you really want to read all this, Esther? It's fine. Thank you very much, because this might take like 15 minutes to go through. So yes, I think most people can that are here. I'm sure they can see my screen as it is. So thank you very much, Esther. No, I mean you can leave it on. I just didn't think that you want to go through reading all that, but you can leave it on just so that I mean people might have some kind of context in terms of who I am and what it is that I do as a person. So it's fine. Yes, it's fine. It's okay. So once again, everybody, it's good morning to you. I have people from Ghana. I have people from Nigeria. I might even have one or two people from maybe Cameroon and even from Kenya here on this call. So once again, thank you very much for being here. My background is in IT. I have an IT company. I do a lot of ISO standards and similar type things. However, since about 4 years ago, I started doing some work on SDGs and started doing formal research in Leeds City University as a doing focused on sustainable development goals and its applicability in different parts of the world, focused primarily on Nigeria for now. So, relative to SDG, I will call myself a researcher. I think that will probably be the best naming convention for myself when it comes to, the best description is what I was going to say when it comes to SDGs. I'm more of a researcher, so I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. So the idea today is that you will add your knowledge and your skills and your own experience, you add it to this course in itself. So I'm happy that you're all here. I'm happy that you've taken the time to register and to be a part of this course in itself. So thank you very much. I hope you all have access to the chat room, because sometimes when I even try to get in the chat room, I might have one issue or the other. So before we move on, can I get everybody to just introduce themselves? Once again, thank you very much. Energy Commission, Abdulkadir, thank you very much. Peter, thank you. Thank you. Who else is here? Janet, thank you. Okay, good, 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 good. Um, Planned the future. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, great. Matthew is here now. So all the others that have come in later, thank you very much, Matthew. Lafarge, great, 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 great. Yes, yes, yes. Um, Ayomide, thank you very much for being here. Aisha, thank you. Brilliant, brilliant. Industry, trade, and investment. That's great. Network Foundation for Empowerment. Yes. Uh, Brilliant, Peter. Okay, good. So all the others that are just coming in, please go to the chat room and just introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you coming from? And what do you do? It would just be nice to get to know some of the people that are on the call. This training, I'm going to try to finish it over the next 2 hours. I'm only going to try. I cannot guarantee that I'll be done, but I'm going to try, because the last hour of the day, or the last 30 minutes, we have yeah, an exam that we want you to do, and we usually want the exam will take about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It shouldn't take more than that. And we usually want people to share the certificates on the call so that um we can see how you have done and things like that. So that is the itinerary for today. I have two different presentations. I'm going to first go through there's this, all right? I believe this is it. Let me share this with you. There's the document that speaks about, where is it now? Just give me a second. There's a document that speaks about SDG in the year. I mean, there's always so many documents, but there's a document that speaks about SDG the year 2023. Right. So let me put that link in here. So that will be, I'm hoping a lot of people are doing this on their computer, because we are going to be having a lot of discussions. I don't have all the answers. I don't. I can promise you I don't. The idea behind this course is for us to be able to discuss. I'll share my thoughts, and you will also share your own thoughts. Nobody can say that they're the should I say, they're the signature of all knowledge when it comes to sustainable development goals. I was fortunate to be at the Institute of the Directors conference that ended yesterday. It was a brilliant conference, IOD. And on Wednesday, we had Babatunde Raji Fashola. He was on the call. It was one of the keynote speakers on what's that they called on Wednesday. It was one of the keynote speakers on Wednesday, and he shared his thoughts. He shared his thoughts. He shared his opinion, and I was just saying to myself that it would just be nice one day, maybe when somebody connects me to him, it would just be nice that I can bring him on the call like this, and he would just share his own thoughts with us with regards to SDGs. I mean, he has a lot of experience. So when we were speaking, I was just like, wow, as in like this guy has so much experience. He shared this, he shared that. He said a lot of things, and because he was there for 8 years, that in Lagos, the largest economy in the whole of in the whole of Africa. As I say, I don't think there's any other location in Africa that has the size and the magnitude and the economy of Lagos State. So he shared his thoughts, he shared his insights into different things. And when I was just listening to him, the thing that was just going through my mind is that God just, I mean, just allow somebody introduce me to this man and let this man just agree to come on one of our calls one of these days to come and share his practical experience in the initiatives that Lagos State, and of course it can also be our present governor in Lagos State, to come and share his thoughts on this kind of call with us. Like, what exactly have they done with regards to poverty? What exactly have they done with regards to hunger and health and education? And just to hear from them, that holistic perspective in itself. So for those of you that are heavily interested in SDGs, right, you should look at some of these things. The other thing I have here is, and then that's where we're going to start this session from. We're going to start from this other report, which is the 2030 report. And I like the report. That's where I'm going to start this session from. Okay. That's where I'm going to uh start this session from. Right. What is the projection what is the ideal that people should be working towards, that in the year 2030, what should we be working towards as a people, as a nation, as different states of the government? What should we be working towards? So that's where I'm going to start from. Our 2030, the 2030 documentation, as it is. The other thing I was going to say is that I have done this before. So maybe they will share a link in the chat room some months, in the month of January to be precise, not some months ago. In the month of January to be precise, I had this session, and now we're doing it again. I promised people even in that month of January, and I'm going to do this again this year. And here we are. I am holding the session again. So some people were here in January, and now they're here again. So a big thank you to those people that were here in January, and now they're also here. So big thank you to you. They will share. So I've shared 2 links in the chat room. The status of SDG in the year 2023 and the document that we're going to start from. So the one that talks about what the world will be looking at in the year 2030. That's where we're going to start our conversation from. Well, even before that, over the last 1 year or maybe yeah, I've been I've been I've been looking at two things also. So I mean, as I said, in this regard, I'm a thinker, a researcher, a writer. We also have a couple of things that we've written. So my one of my colleagues, Olaoluwa, will have a couple of papers that we've written. So we will share the link. We'll put them together in a document. I know that I have some of those things somewhere. Okay, so we will share them. Over the last couple of months, I've been very much into this thing called the poly crisis, everybody. There's something that it's called the poly crisis, and it's the World Economic Forum that I've been dealing with it. And I can share this link also. There's a diagram that is there. It talks about the poly crisis, that the world is really in crisis, right? The world in itself is really in crisis. The world is really in crisis. So thank you very much. They've shared the one we did last year. The one, oh, sorry, in January. It almost feels like last year. I did it in January. Thank you very much, James. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you all here. So I've done this in the past. I did it in January, and now we're doing it again. So I've just shared the link that talks about poly crisis, according to the World Economic Forum, right? That the world is in crisis, that the world is completely in crisis, and it calls it poly crisis, and it says that too many things are going wrong in the world, that too many things are going wrong in the world. So this concept of poly crisis is a big deal. And how do we manage these multiple things that are going wrong in the world, right? And of course, our country, Nigeria, is a definitely a representation of these global type issues. So these issues are in Nigeria. These issues are also global. They're in Ghana, they're in Kenya, they're across the world. So the concept is called polycrisis, right? So that the crisis in the world is multidimensional. And I think if there's ever a time that government, state government, local government, federal government institutions should take a more precise look and a more definite look at these things that we're talking about, I think it is now. I think it is now that they should take a more precise and definite look at what is happening around the world. So uh, I put it in that link as it is, right? The World Economic Forum, the poly crisis of the world. And I'll put it up on my screen in a second. The other thing that I've been looking at a lot also is what is called the multidimensional poverty index, right? There's something called the multidimensional poverty index. So everybody that is here, that you're in that space, that CSR, SDG space, you should know about these things, right? So that's why I'm going to put that link also in the chat room. The index that really speaks about poverty, right? It's called the 2023 Global Multidimensional Poverty Index. I mean, it's a big deal. It is a massive deal in terms of thinking about this poverty thing differently. And that was something I was looking at. I wish I will find it. I'm sure I'll find it. And when he was talking about the poverty index of the world, and Africa was definitely leading um on that on that list. Africa was the one that was has taken the giant position when it comes to that thing, and it was quite it's quite it was, I mean, it's not like it's anything to be proud of that we're leading when it comes to poverty index of the world. we shouldn't be leading when it comes to the poverty index of the world. So there are many things as it is. So I put the link in there. There's both of them, the three links that I've shared, they are reports, everybody. There are reports. There's a report from the World Economic Forum when it comes to poly crisis. There's a report also for the SDG 2030 and the 2023. And the fourth report that you should take your time to look at is this global multidimensional poverty index. I mean, these are things that if this is your job, if this is one of the areas that you really want to specialize, then you need to drill further into these things. So four things that I have said since I've started this session. Number one, I've spoken about SDG, the 2023 report and the 2030 report. 2023 and the 2030 report. So maybe somebody will be our scribe that will help us, should I say, help us summarize these things at the end of this session. Maybe they have the AI notes activated on this Zoom, but apart from that, is to also just ensure that we have clear ideas of the various things that I've spoken about. And of course, this session is being recorded, so we're going to put this on YouTube, just like the one that I'd done earlier, so to speak. All right. So once again, big deal across board. All right. Poly crisis. There's so much trouble around the world. The world is in trouble, and that goes without saying. And if there's ever a time that institutions should look at these SDGs again, I think it is now. I definitely think it is now. Every government institution, every organization, everybody needs to go back and really look at this SDGs again. SDG is not something that you pay lip service to. SDG summarizes what the government is meant to be driving. When we were at the conference yesterday, or 2 days ago, Mr. Raji was saying, oh, that the private sector also have their own responsibilities and all that. And people had to tell him that, yes, okay, we kind of agree. When he that's the former governor of Lagos State, for the people who are not Nigerians that are on the call. And the people said, sir, we agree with regard to some of these things that you are saying. We agree. However, the government is the one that sets the tone. Leadership is meant to be top down, not bottom up. So they were telling him that, sir, we think that leadership, it's the government that should be driving a lot of these things. We, the private sector, we will follow. We will work with you, but you, the government, you should be driving these things, and you should be in the leadership position when it comes to some of these things. So it's important. The other thing that I did, and I'll probably show you that in a moment. So Esther, please stop sharing, please. Thank you. The other thing that I'll show you in a moment, and I hope my computer is not going to play a fast one on me this morning, because I had to restart it because I didn't want it to go off at any time or have something that is not opening. My challenge is that I'm always opening different things during my sessions. So because I'm always wanting to illustrate one thing or the other, but we should be fine. We've had prayer warriors. And happy new month to everybody. So please, everybody, happy new month to all of you. Happy new month to everybody that is here. Today is the 1st, so the 1st of November. We intentionally put it here today because we felt that it would just be a great day for us to be able to start today. So, and I know a lot of you are at work and things like that. So thank you very much for being here once again. What I did at some point in time is that I started looking at the manifesto of I started looking at the manifesto of different entities. So let me do this. Okay. Let me share. I started looking at the manifesto of uh, of different leaders. Okay, I think this is what I want to share. All right, let me see. And because I do SDG, right? I started saying that let me see. No. Okay, hold on. I'm sure I'll find it. Uh, I think this is it, right? I think this is it. So everybody, if we look at this, right? They're in Nigeria and in Ghana, which are my focus countries, right? They and we can talk about the overall governments as it is. They have ministries and agencies and parastatals and entities like that that have responsibilities towards these 17 things. They have agencies, they have parastatals, they've got all sorts that have that have responsibilities to ensure that these things are done right. From poverty to hunger to health, they have ministries, they have departments, they have agencies, but their responsibility is to ensure that this is done everywhere. As I said, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, those my focused target locations, right? They have entities that drive all these things, life on land, life below the water. In a place like Lagos State, they will actually also have entities that drive everything here. So this is not a new thing. The government already understands. As I said, using Lagos as an example and using Nigeria as an example, the government already has entities that they've created already. Lagos State Ministry of Health, Lagos State Ministry of Education, Lagos State, they already have these entities. And those entities are already working. They only exist because they're meant to contribute to these goals. So Lagos State, like it or not, everything that Lagos State is doing is going to come down to this. Lagos State has got something called the themes agenda. But the themes agenda in itself or in themselves, everything aligns here. The federal government has got all sorts, but everything, even from the federal government, aligns to this place. Everything, not some things, everything. So the leaders, the owners, the drivers of everything here belongs to the government. And I was looking at, I was looking at I was looking at this, and I started looking at this agenda, uh, which is from the African Union, the 2063 agenda, and it's available online, right? That say that this is where the world should, or Africa, sorry, should be. And they started talking about their aspirations there, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth. I mean, it's not even a recent document. It's been written a long time ago. So, it was written as far back as 2015. So if you look at that, they were doing like a what? Like a 50-year type projection, because they called it 2063 because though the final thing came out in 2015, the thinking and putting together the team and all that started in 2013. So at that 2013, they were trying to plan 50 years ahead. That is what it is that they were trying to do. As at 2013, they were trying to plan 50 years ahead. That's what they were trying to do as at that time. And the document exists. If you're like me, who's a researcher and who's got all these kinds of responsibilities, you need to go look at it, right? And we also put this here. So if you look at this, ministries, and this is Nigeria as an example. Look at it. It's all in there, right? Ministry of Education. It's all in there. So the government already knows and they accept, in a sense, directly or indirectly, that ensuring that their initiatives and the ministries and departments and agencies, that all what those entities are doing align is critical, right? So, I mean, these are all ministries and all that. In one other document, and I'll look for it before we finish this, I looked at the manifesto in Ghana. I looked at the manifesto in Nigeria for the present governments in each of those locations. I'll look for it. I don't really think it's in this particular document. All right. I looked at everything. What exactly are the promises that the present government in Ghana? What are the promises that they made to their people? What are the promises that were made in Nigeria? Like that. So I will look for that document. I used it in that session that we did earlier in the year. And you will see that, whether it's Atiku that was making promises, whether it's our president that was making promises, all the promises that they were making were all aligned to SDG. Everything was aligned to SDG. So this is not exactly new. It's not exactly out of this world, because in reality, this is what the government is meant to be doing. So I have some of my own concerns with regards to some things in terms of how they are written them in terms of the SDG, because they didn't want it to be more than 17. They cramped a lot of things into some of them, but that's a different conversation. So let me go ahead. I mean, a lot of people are here, and I think I've already laid a decent background for what it is. So there is let me start. I want to start with this one. All right. I hope you can see my screen. So I already shared this with you, the 2030 global agenda. Just like I told you about the African Union report, the 2026 version, trying to project what is the kind of Africa that we want. And that's a useful document, right? And I was at Afrexim yesterday. I was at Afrexim in Senegal some weeks ago. I mean, so I'm working to ensure that my research and my insights and the things that I'm doing is aligned to what is being done in Africa. So this is a great document. It's not a secret. You can go lay your hands on it as it is. I also have talked about polycrisis, the crisis that is affecting all of us, all sorts of things, all sorts of problems. And because we're in a connected world, you can't hide your head in the sand. You can't say that I don't care, I don't know about these things, it's not my business. You can't say that. We're in a connected world. Whatever it is that is happening in Ukraine, whatever it is that is happening in Sudan, they'll have the some direct or indirect line to you. They have direct or indirect impact on your own organization and things like that. So once again, this is a big deal. We can spend the whole day talking about this, because when we hold like a risk management session for organizations, we start to really look at each of these things and start to ask ourselves that which of these things is affecting your own organization. How do these things directly and indirectly affect your own organization? Which ones can you afford to ignore as an organization? Which ones can you not afford to ignore as an organization? And maybe that's one of the action points everybody should go with. The government I've seen in Nigeria and in Ghana, state and federal, we're not very good at risk management. Hardly will you even find a lot of government agencies that have a risk management department. Hardly will you find anybody that has a risk management department. Some do. The Nigeria, the CBNs of this world, the NDIC in Ghana, BOG, and some of those organizations, yes, they have an enterprise risk, but a lot of on the average, government institutions don't have a risk department. It doesn't mean they don't do risk management, but doing it is different from formally doing it. And the idea is for you to be able to say that these things that are affecting the world globally, how do we tie them to our own organization as it is? So go back, go look at it. The report is out. I'm hoping to see the 2024 version of the report, which will now be more updated, telling us, but usually it'll probably be a 10% update. So here you can see infectious diseases, we can see employment crisis, you can see chronic health conditions, you can see digital inequality, you can see all sorts of things. You can see the failure of climate change adaptation, You can see many things. The amount of monies that countries are owing, the debt crisis, and countries are still borrowing. You can see terrorist attacks. So while I'm seeing a lot of companies that are drawing parallels and thinking about how the global risks might also affect their own organization, I'm not sure a lot of government institutions are also doing the same thing. I'm not sure a lot of government institutions are also doing the same thing that really looks at how various things can affect the each of your ministries, your departments, and your agencies, and even your state or your municipal or whatever entity you have as a whole. So this is an assignment for everybody. Go back and draw a parallel, do a report, an internal report that says that this global things, how do they affect our country, our state, our own organization, our own sector, our own industry, our own sphere of influence. So let me leave this and move to the next one. This is the other one that I've also mentioned to you, and this is brilliant, right? This is brilliant. And this is looking at poverty, right? And remember, of course, if you look at your SDG, poverty is number one. If you look at it, these are critical things. It's poverty, it's hunger, it's well-being, it's education. Look, it's for me, those top four, you can't go away from them. Poverty, hunger, health, and education. And there's always the thing where we say, you know, um, which of these things should come first. Somebody said, I believe education is the most important, right? It's education that will end up delivering the people from wherever it is, and that people need to be highly educated, and that education does not necessarily translate into, oh, they must go to the university, have a PhD. Oh, no, that's not what it is that I look at it. But there's some basic education that every human being should have, and that's important, right? The education is a big deal. But somebody will tell me that, has anybody, even if you say primary school is free, right? Even if you say that, and you up the standard of the primary school and you make it better, and things like that, that how will the children go there if they have not eaten, right? So that will take me to goal two, that if people are hungry and they wake up in the morning and they don't even have food to eat, how are they going to make it to the class? Then I think about that. Then we're having that conversation. Then somebody says that, what about if the people are ill? All right. They've eaten, but they're not feeling well and they don't have good health care. How are they going to make it to class? Then somebody now complicates it and says that if the people don't have accommodation, if they're sleeping on the floor, and they get sick from not having adequate accommodation as it is, right? How are they going to make it to class? So you can see the interconnectedness of these things, that the government cannot also look at one and ignore the other. I'm an avid listener to Arise TV. It's even on where I'm seated in my home office. It's on behind me, and they called somebody for electricity, one of the electricity distributors, and they were saying that, oh, band A, band B, that this electricity tariffs are too expensive. And what's the name of that gentleman that's always trying to crucify everybody? Rufai was trying to bite the man and cut him into shreds. Then the guy said, see, we're a business, right? We have to, the electricity delivery comes at X amount of money. Maybe it's a dollar or whatever it is to every home. If it comes at a dollar, because we're a business, we have to make a profit. Otherwise, we'll not be in business any longer. So we have to put a profit, could be 20%, 30%, whatever that profit is. He said, but you can't blame the electricity distributors for poverty in the land. You can't say our economy is bad, our exchange rate it's not great to the dollar, and that the electricity should be expensive. That you need to take your problems, your economic problems, or your societal problems to the government. We're just an electricity distribution company. And whatever it is that you think is a big challenge in the environment, that we also are suffering from these things. And that was a very interesting thing as it is. So what it is that they've done now is that they've looked at it that, see, poverty in itself. I mean, I have a saying, right? Um, I like to say that bad governance, and maybe right, I mean, I have a flyer somewhere that says that, bad governance or the lack of good governance is the root of all national and state evil. That it is bad governance or the lack of good governance that is the bedrock for all national evil. Because if governance is right, then these things that we're talking about is not going to be an issue. That bad governance, and that bad governance does not go only to the president or to the governor of the state. That's not the idea, because governance is not just one person. It's also some entities that come together to drive the governance of the state and the nation at large. So this is not trying to indict the governor or the president or anything like that, but the overall bad governance or the lack of good governance in the land. If I was going to write this SDG, I would have put number 16 as number 1. I would have put number 16 as number 1. That's what I would have done. Because when we talk about strong institutions, that is where governance comes in. As I said, I was at I was in IOG, and you can put your comments. So, I mean, I'll come back to, please just put your comments in the chat room. I'll come back to take everything. So please, everybody, as your thoughts are going, as these things are going through your mind, just put them in the comments as it is. So, my screen went off. Esther, my screen is gone off. Please just put your comments in the chat room. I will come back to hear from everybody, and we'll also have the point where we can all Esther, what is happening? I'm meant to be sharing my own slides, not from you. All right.
You can share your screen, so okay.
All right. Yeah, but something kicked me out, right? So if I was going to write this, because I've seen in my work, right, I've seen where people are taking a non-coordinated, non-structured, and non-prioritized is the word, right? Non-prioritized approach to these things. Now, we will say poverty leads to everything, which is what these people are trying to say. That's what this report, right? And once again, this is available online. You can download it. It's free. What they're trying to say is that poverty is the cause of a lot of other things. That's why they've called it the poverty index. As I said, you can share your thoughts and your opinion in the chat room. We'll come back. This is not a monologue, and I'm not a radio presenter. So I'm definitely going to take thoughts and opinion, even for each of the goals that we're going to be looking at. All of us are going to have to contribute and tell me your thoughts and your opinion, right? So what they've done here is to say that the thinking here is that poverty is like a big deal, and that so they've now broken poverty under 3 key things. That means poverty is leading to health, which is 3. Poverty is leading to 4, which is education. And then they've just put the others, right? We can take this from all the other goals, and they've just called it the standard of living. Now, under the dimensions, if you now look at under health, they now have nutrition and child mortality, which is definitely tied to hospitals and medical care, and tied to number 2, which is hunger. Brilliant work. Brilliant work. Right? To say that, see, the dimension for health as a dimension of poverty leads to goal 2 and goal 3. Nutrition, hunger, and then healthcare, child mortality. So there's a difference between dimensions versus indicators. Okay? That's on one hand. They've now come to the other dimension here, which is education. And they now talk about the years of schooling. Right? That if these things are like this, then there's a big challenge. And then school attendance. So any school age child is not attending school up to the age at which she would complete class 8. So they've now brought education into the two, and then they've grouped all the others, right? They've on the standard of living. And here they've talked about cooking for sanitation, drinking water, electricity, housing, and also assets. So they're saying that there are three key dimensions of poverty. Three key dimensions of poverty, right? Okay. And 10 indicators. Three key dimensions of poverty and 10 indicators. And this is an assessment that needs to be done, right? At the state level, at the local government level. I don't know what happened. Maybe something or somebody does not want me to complete my session. Please allow me share my screen. Allow me share my screen, and I'll take thoughts from everybody in a second, right? As it is. So somebody should look for that graph for me, please, quickly, and I can look for it myself actually. That says that where is the poverty graph of the world. Graph, right? Across the world. Wait, there's a specific one that I was looking at, right? There's a specific one across the world. There's also one for Africa. There's also a poverty graph for Africa. So there's also the one per country. So there are all sorts of poverty graphs that you will see, right? There's the one that is also per country. It says that this is the state of the state of poverty across the continent, and there's the one that is also per country, right? There's a poverty multi-poverty index, right? So these are big things that that our countries, the experts that are on the call, I know some people here are way better experts than I am. There are people here that have probably been doing SDG for 10, 15, 20 years, from all the way from Millennium Development Goals. So this is by no means anybody saying that, you're not experts in your own areas of work as it is. I'm just sharing my thoughts and my opinion from the various things that I do as it is. So please don't if you disagree with me, you have a right. I actually expect you to disagree in a lot of areas. And I don't even have all the answers as it is. So I have found one of the tables. It's not exactly the graph that I'm looking for, but it is one of the tables that illustrates this. So, yeah, so, okay, good. So let me share my screen again. So if you look at this, if anybody can see my screen, so look at it, all right? So it says So look at it, multi-dimensional poverty percentage. The multi-dimensional poverty percentage from East Asia, like that, like that. And then when it comes to sub-Saharan Africa, everybody, look at it, 52.6. Right? So we are leading when it comes to multi-dimensional poverty. So this is an existential threat. This is not a nice to have. This meeting that we're having, it's a big deal, because if we don't do something about these things, we're all going to suffer. Our countries, our families, people say, I'm going to run out of Africa, I'm going to run to Germany, I'm going to run to different parts of the world. But you cannot take, except you don't care about people, right? So, except you're one of those people that you only care about yourself and your kids. You're not going to move all your family, your extended family. It's not going to happen. I'm from Abeokuta, all the people that are from your hometown and your brother's family and your cousin's family it's not possible. So you and I need to do something about these things. How can we get out of this hole? Because what we're talking about is not a nice to have. There's nothing about what we're saying that is nice to have. The things that we're talking about here, they are a must-have for Africa. Otherwise, we will all not exist any longer. All right. I said the other thing, they said we cannot view well from our office here. It's got to be your internet. Can every other person view my screen that I just shared? It's got to be your internet. Okay. Right. So before I move ahead, let's go to the chat room. So what are your thoughts? Generally, what's going through your mind, everybody? Oh, we're going to share all the slides. You even have an exam, so it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. So it's not an issue. Everybody, please share your thoughts with me in the chat room. Please, if you don't mind. What are your thoughts? Because I need to move on with the class. I want to finish this class in the next 2 hours, and I haven't even started at all. All right, I'm just trying to lay some background as it is. All right. So can anybody? I'm not sharing anything right now. Can anybody just share your thoughts with me? What about the things that we have said over the last couple of minutes? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, everybody? Quickly, quickly. What's going through your mind? What are your thoughts about the things that I have said over the last couple of minutes? What are your thoughts, everybody?
Hello,
Quickly,
hello, sir.
before we move on, right? Anybody?
Hello,
Anybody?
can you hear
Yes,
me, sir?
please. Go ahead, sir. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Okay, so yeah, SDGs is something that we've been echoing for quite some time now, and it's something that has been kind of institutionalized in almost every country of the world, but yet we are not seeing the real physical impact
Be-
on our
the
lives,
benefits and the
especially
impacts.
yes, especially in Africa. Every time we keep getting grants, donations from foreign and international organizations loaded and pushed to Africa, yet the impact remains the same, very poor. So now earlier this week, like 3 days ago, 4 days ago, someone was sharing about Makoko in Lagos, how donors and people of goodwill come to the water body there to kind of impact the community education wise. But at the end, they take pictures and photo ops, and it ends that way. Go on social media, declare impact, social media impact without real reality. In fact, the person that shared this with us in a meeting I was is actually a teacher on in that community that leaves the mainland and comes to the community there to teach. I'm sure you know Makoko, or maybe
Oh,
some
yes,
persons here
absolutely.
knows that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
so the problem now, or the issue here, is how can we sanitize the SDGs for real impact?
Okay. I mean, as I said, thank you very much for that. I want people to put a lot of their thoughts in the chat room, because it will also be nice for us to be able to send these things to everybody and all that. So, um, I don't have all the answers. I honestly don't have the all the answers, right? So it's true, but a lot of these things, maybe it's just the depth of where the problem is that is just not allowing. Because I know churches, for example, that go there all the time. I know there are probably mosques that also go to that area to do CSR, right? So, but why is it that a lot of these things they're not translating? I honestly don't have all the answers as it is. So if other people also have thoughts, they also have opinion, please drop them in the chat room. I'm hoping we can all have these discussions because I'm happy that you brought up such a question. Why is it that despite all the efforts from both private and public institutions, I mean, companies do CSR and they actually do the CSR, but CSR might not be able to do much. Some of these things are endemic, some of them are systemic, some of them are weaponized poverty, as Peter has said. I mean, it's all sorts, all right? My point is weaponized poverty. It's also very possible. Somebody else was saying something. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
I
Yes, sir.
I think so far so good. The way you started the presentation was mind blowing, considering the fact that the SDG goal has been popularized over the years. And looking at what the SDG is talking about, I think the whole essence is focused on Africa, most especially, from poverty to energy to sustainable and some other factors in
Good
the
morning. Thank
17.
you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, so the
Part of management and planning. What is the issue that you want?
So the issue is that the day that
Please,
so
can
the
you help
day
us
you
mute
taught
the
us
other
the
people,
think
please, so that we can
the
hear
so
what
this
he's
day that
saying?
you
Can you
taught
help
us
us mute others?
benefits of environmental planning and management.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Sir, please finish what you were saying, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Finish what you're saying, sir. Very quickly, sir. Very quickly, sir. All right. Any other person? Let me take one more
Sorry.
comment
Hello.
so that we can. Okay, please go ahead, ma.
Hello.
Let me
Good,
take one more
yeah.
comment so that.
Good morning,
Yes, yes.
everybody. This is
Good
Peter
morning.
Alimayoshe Peter speaking.
Okay. Hello, Peter. How
Okay.
you doing?
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you for all what you said so far. Now, the challenge I have with the SDGs is that I'm not even bothered about the fact that fine, it looks to me as if it is what has been given to Africa for Africa to actually ride on and all that. It is one of the challenges of the world. However, looking at the aspect of poverty, like I wrote on the chat, in chat box, that I believe that poverty is being weaponized. And with that, it makes it difficult to achieve these SDG goals. Now, yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, I saw a movie titled Boycott. Probably everyone should try and see that movie. It's about some of the crimes in the northern part of Nigeria, and RMD was one of the key actors there. You saw the role he played in that. Now, these are things that we are saddled with. I wish I can say some things here, but because this call is being recorded, I choose not to say certain things. Now, you have rise in what's it called? Non-governmental bodies and all that. You have Makoko area and all that. To me, Makoko should have transformed beyond what we have today, judging by the level of CSR that you see around those places every now and then. But the fact is, what do you get is a form of camaraderie there. People just go there, let the world see that, yes, we're doing something, put something out for the world to see. Oh, we went to Makoko to do this, to do that. But what is the genuine intention around those people? I stand to my words. Poverty is being weaponized, and the more we continue to weaponize it, every other goals in the SDG will be far from being met. From the institution to the quality education and what have you, they will all be a charade. It will be a mirage at the end of the day. So until we are sincere with the aspect of that poverty and tackling everything in the multi dimensions that they come up with and even the other indicators as mentioned, 10 or thereabout, we won't have headway. And you can see from the indicators that it even borders around health, education, and standard of living. So if you ask me personally, my own opinion, if you do not tackle poverty head on, every other aspect of the SDG goals will be difficult to be met. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. I, I mean, I I differ. All right. I mean, once again, this is not a classroom, so we all can have different thoughts and opinion. All right. And thank you very much for that. Others, please just put it in the chat room. I want to quickly get through with this session. For me, this is what I think, right? Bad governance, and bad governance means a lot, right? It means rule of law, um, justice system, the policing system, um, the arms of the government, the effectiveness, the effectiveness. Let me say the effectiveness of the arms of the government, um, the yes, effectiveness of the arms of the government, rule of law, and all those kinds of things are the things that I call governance, right? And my point is, it is this governance that is the real issue. And once again, if you agree with me, you can go into the chat room because I need to move on here. So it is this governance that in itself that is the root of all evil. This thing that they put at number 16, and that's why you and I need to be in all these meetings where they have these conversations, because governance in a lot of those places around the world have already reached a certain kind of maturity. So for them, they put it towards the back. But that's not true. For in Africa, and I can tell you, at least in some of the countries in Africa, this number 16 is where the problem comes. We will look at poverty and hunger and good health and education and inequalities when it comes to gender and sanitation and clean water and all those things. We will look at them as in reality, these other things, they are the results. They're the consequence. They're the things that happen because one thing has gone bad all the way from the very beginning, and it is governance. When it comes to the rule of law, to justice, policing, to everything that is this number 16 is where the problem is emanating from. Because number 16 has gone wrong, number 1 all the way to 15 will go wrong. You're guaranteed. So I have a paper that I have written to say that number 16 is the root of all the problem. You know what they say, the root cause of something. You know, people who do business analysis and all that, the root cause of something. If elections are going wrong and people are rigging elections and you have godfatherism and all those things, it will all come down to governance. And because governance has gone wrong, every other thing will go wrong. This poverty that we're talking about, in reality, if you look at the root cause, where exactly is it emanating from? It is from bad governance. And you can go in the chat room, you can agree, everybody go to the chat room, you can agree, you can disagree, however it is, but I need to move on with this session. Are we good? Are we good? Everybody, please go to the chat room, share your thoughts, share your opinion with me. So I'm just quickly going to talk about this. And this is the world, right? So in 2030, so in Nigeria, what is a dollar as at today? So a dollar as at today is about 1,700, almost going to 1,800 for $1. Most people don't even have that to live on every day. So if you look at where we are as at today, we're on what? What dollar are we? Because the average person cannot, where will you get a dollar? How can the children or all those people that are hawking, do you see the people? I'm not even talking about in my hometown. I'm not talking about in my state. I'm talking about in right here in Lagos State. Do you, when people are hawking on the road, do you see what they're carrying on Allen Avenue, which is close to where I stay? It's granuts. How much do they put in the plastic bag for that granuts that you buy? That boy, sometimes 9 or 10 or 14, that has to come to do that. Otherwise, they might not eat in their home that evening. How much money do they get from that? Most people cannot make a profit of $1 a day. So once again, this is about the existence of all of us. This is not a nice to have. This is about all of us being able to go back and influence the society, influence our world in one way or the other. I'm doing my bit here. I'm doing my bit in all sorts of instances and in all sorts of situations. But all of us need to go back and do that, right? Another thing here is that reduce at least half the proportion of men and women and children living in poverty, implement nationally appropriate social protection programs. I mean, please put your thoughts. I really need you to put your thoughts in the chat room, everybody. How can we, because this poverty is a big deal. All right. So, I mean, social protection programs. There's no social protection in many countries in Africa. There's no social protection. All right. So the poor and the vulnerable, and that's why, the poor and the vulnerable are truly like in the hands of God. Like literally. Like the poor and the vulnerable are literally in the hands of God. So what do we need to do? What are the actionable steps? But poverty is so it's multidimensional. It has all sorts of indicators. I just showed you the slide. Because to deal with poverty, look at everybody focus on the indicators here. Forget even the dimensions. That is a bit high level. Focus on the 10 indicators that are on this page. There's hardly an African country, hardly, apart from the few in maybe northern and southern Africa, that will say that they're actually on top of these things. I live in 2 locations. I live in Nigeria and I live in Ghana, primarily. Right? I live in Nigeria and I live in Ghana, primarily. Right? And I can say that these 10 indicators, they've not been effectively addressed. I can almost dare say that they're probably better addressed in Ghana than even in Nigeria. And you don't have to look very far. You can just think about electricity. But even in Ghana, these indicators are still very valid. So, let's come up with our recommendations. And that's why I'm saying that please go into the chat room and give me your thoughts. Because if we talk about this from morning till night and we don't have any recommendations, we have nothing to say, then that's going to be an issue. Okay? Because we keep talking about a policy framework. And because I do ISO standards for a living, policies are great, but that's not a big deal. It's the execution. Nigeria has a document. Is it Nigeria in 2030 or something? It's a brilliant federal government document, and a brilliant one, well written. Like the plan, the plan for Nigeria, the 20, whatever that thing is. Maybe somebody can look at it for me. I have all these things in the slide that is not necessarily here. Nigeria in the year 2030 or something like that. I can't even remember what it is. That has projected a strategic plan for Nigeria. So if it is about having it is about having documents, then every country's got great documents, right? Nigeria country strategic plan 2023 to 2027, brilliant document, right? Nigeria national development plans. There are all sorts of plans that exist. People can write plans. It's just like you and I, right? We can write all sorts of great plans. We can think of plans. We can dream of plans. The plans are just written, in such a way that, they're brilliant, right? some people have sat in a room, they're great consultants, they can think through things. The real problem is execution. If it's about plans, it's brilliant. Mr. Fashola was saying that, we should go to the Nigerian Constitution and look at Section 2. And if we look at Section 2, and if somebody can find Section 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, you can put it in the chat room. And he was saying that, that everything is in there. All the things we're thinking about, all the things we're praying about, that they are all captured already in the Constitution. So if these things are there, the real problem is execution. It's execution. In Lagos State, as I said, where I live, this picture that we can see is in many places in there. It's in so many, in Lagos State. Let's not talk about all the other states that have way less resources in comparison. The plans are there. The execution is the problem. That's why I keep saying, and I'll keep saying it, that poor governance, bad governance. And I keep using the word governance because I understand what that word means. There's a document called ISO 37300, everybody, that talks about the governance of organizations. ISO 37300. And that the document says that if an organization is already struggling from that governance perspective, then every other thing will go wrong. Every other thing is going to go wrong if they're already struggling from a governance perspective. I'll move on very quickly. But I want to hear your recommendations, everybody. I want you to go into the chat room. What are your recommendations from where you sit? And nobody is going to say your recommendation is wrong or it's right. Okay? Nobody is going to say that. There's an agricultural plan. There's been an agricultural plan in Nigeria, for example, even in Ghana, for maybe 40 years or 50 years. So, but please, can you hear me mute that person? There's some noise coming from somebody's there. Right? But despite all the agricultural plans that we have to ensure that food is available, food has become more expensive and scarce over the years. Because the answer to this is got to be some kind of internal agricultural management effort. And when the people have not eaten, right? Remember what I said. I said, my personal view, education. Then somebody challenges my view and tells me that it is food. Then somebody challenges the view. It's like all of us have turned to Plato's Republic. Then somebody challenges the view of the person that said it is food and says that, what about if you have food and you have poor health? What difference does it make? And then somebody challenges that one and then tells you that, oh, you know what? You talk about food, you talk about health, and you talk about education, but the people don't have accommodation. That mosquitoes have beaten them overnight, rain has fallen, snakes can come to bite them where they're sleeping, that they're defecating where exactly they also are sleeping. So that if the people don't have great accommodation, what's going to happen? Once again, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. What should the state government be doing relative to agriculture? Right? What should the state government be doing? How can they work on these areas to ensure that these things are properly done? In Nigeria, we've been giving fertilizer to farmers. There is X amount of the government money that goes into the provisioning of fertilizers from forever till forever. And that's why you see that the coordination of these things is a big deal. Because if the people say that it is terrorists that is allowing them and bandits not to go to their farms, and then there's a ripple effect, that means somebody is even saying that you want to deal with food, but you have to go to deal with security. And if you don't deal with security, you will not be able to address food. That means we've even left food and accommodation and health and education. Now we've gone to security because somebody is saying that the reason why your food is hampered is because of security. Once again, see the multidimensional nature of what it is that we're dealing with. We're dealing with security that might lead to no food that might lead to poor health that might lead to people not even going to school, even if the schools were available. We're dealing with accommodation for the poor and the vulnerable in the society. This is beyond just conversation. These are real things, and I call it that it deals with our existence. This world, like we're all very prayerful. Most people here are Africans. We're very prayerful. We pray in the morning, we pray at night, we pray all the time. I mean, we're always praying, right? As it is. But that we will all not exist any longer if these issues and challenges are not dealt with. If we don't do something about these things, we will all not exist. And it doesn't matter the volume of our prayers. If security is not dealt with, that then leads to food, that then leads to health, that then leads to education. I mean, do you know the number of families that the parents literally have sex in front of the children because they're all in one room? Like, they've got kids already. They live in one room. They don't have an extra room. They don't have a car. They don't have somewhere to go to. And then they give birth to more kids. How does that happen? That means it all happens in that one room. Do you know how vulnerable? I see some boys in my area, they come to pick cans, and you look at them, and you're just wondering that, if these guys are not carrying arms already, I mean, that definitely our prayers have been working as it is. Because the kind of trouble we're meant to have, because of the level of poverty and hunger that is in the environment, it should be way more than this. It should be more than that. How much do you think? As I said, I'll use Lagos where I am, and I like something I can use Accra too, right? How much do you think the average security guard that guards an estate, that stays at the gate or the door in Lagos, I can tell you, at the estate gate or wherever they've been hired, I can tell you how much they earn. Hardly do they ever earn more than 30,000 naira per month. I'm not talking about the sophisticated ones. I'm talking about the average one in an area. And Lagos, I'm using Lagos. Now, that is at the rate of about 1,000 bucks a day. It is those people that end up having more children for some reason. We used to have a gates man that had 9 kids. 9. And then I used to sit with him. I'm like, are you still going to have more? And the guy said, he told me, he said, God gives people different things. He said, God gives some people money. God gives some people all sorts. He said, what God has given him is many children. As far as he's concerned, it is God that led to him having 9 kids. My dad had to tell him that if he has one more kid, he's going to sack him. Then you can't keep having kids. So, once again, these are existential type issues that we're looking at. And maybe, of course, on the average, nobody on this call is poor. If you're poor, you won't even be, you won't even be able to comprehend what I'm saying. You will not have a device to get on this call. You will not have data. You're not the people. But you and I, there's something we can do. from the public perspective, from the government perspective, we need to address this. Once again, I want to quickly go through this, and because I want to come to take your recommendations. I don't have all the answers. I have some answers. We've written some papers. I think we've gotten to goal 7. As it is, we will share the links to all the papers that we have written. They're all on academia. If you type Orlando SDG or into Google, it should take you to academia, and you will definitely see some of the papers that we've been writing tied to the goals as it is. Health is another problem. I mean, and once again, if we're having some of these problems here in Lagos, I don't even want to know what they're having in some of the northern parts of the country. It will be ridiculous. So the maternal mortality, somebody lost their life a while ago, and we're asking the husband, and everything that they were doing, they were praying because they had told them that they had to do CS. And the cost of CS, there's no way the guy was going to be able to afford that. So there was only one of two things that will happen. It's either, it's either the delete. Okay, there's no one or two. There was only one thing that will happen. They had to deliver naturally because there was no hospital was going to take him for the CS or take the wife for the CS. And so they kept on praying and they kept on praying. And of course, at the end of the day, the woman died. I think the baby survived or something like that. And the problem was the fact that they couldn't afford CS. Right? Recently, 2 weeks ago, somebody was ill and they took the person to a medical center. And I'm talking about around me in Oregon. And I drove there because the person is a member of my church and all that. I went to see. And the person was lying on the floor because there was they don't have beds. So they could treat you, but because they had to give her another injection, she had to be there. She was on the floor. And we're looking for clothes and a mat to put on the floor. This health crisis is for real. The government is doing something. Private institutions are doing something. But our numbers in Nigeria, especially, it's a lot. So, and maybe that's why some of those things in Makoko are not really showing, because I can vouch for some of the initiatives in those areas. People have actually gone there giving books. Some people have gone there for the past 10 years to do something. But we're talking about really large-scale problems. So one bank or one telecommunication is going to give them clothes and give them this and give them that. Is not going to be able to really dent what is happening there. So it's not because nothing is happening. It's not because the state government have closed their eyes and they're not doing anything. Well, all our collective efforts seems like it's probably about 10% of what is actually needed. And if you need 100, or if you need 80 or 90% for something, and you keep putting 10% to it, it will look like nothing has been done. It will literally look like nothing has been done. How can we get this health thing resolved? Because there's really poor health care. Poor health care. Like, it's not a joke. It's a serious thing that we have poor health care in many places across Africa. Right? Once again, I like this, right? They've called it inclusive because we don't have inclusive education here. People with one medical challenge or the other are not really taken care of in many places. Okay? They are not part of the, what do they call it? They're not part of our buildings. They're not taken into consideration. Equitable quality education. How do you have that? Every day you see pictures on social media, people who are, there's a guy who's always going to different parts. He says, oh, I will not mention the state. And he'll say that they have one teacher in a school, and the school has got 5 dilapidated classes. This is for real. Like, for real, for real. And they'll be like, how can one teacher? So the guy comes one day, teaches one class, the other days, the other classes, they just put them in the class. I mean, so this is what the world is meant to be looking at in the year 2030. 2030 is not very long. Technically, all of us are in the year 2025. Technically, we've been praying for it, we've been hoping for it, we've been looking forward to it, and all of us will be there. In another 61 days, we'll all be in 2025. Right? Amen to that. All right. So this 2030 is not 100 years down the line. It's technically 5 years from now. Now, is there any validated plan at the local government level, at the state level, at the federal level that leads to the execution of programs that can actually ensure that this works? I inherited school from my parents, a nursery, primary, and a secondary school. That I am the what am I now? Am I proprietor or something? I'm definitely not the principal or headmaster. All right. All right. And I go there, and sometimes we don't make the numbers in terms of the school, the number of the kids that come for admission. And I ask them all the time that what's the challenge? And they tell me that, see, the problem that we have is that there's so many other schools that are allowing people pay for secondary school and primary school on a weekly basis, private schools, and that the parents prefer that. So if the fee for the term is, let's say, 60K, right? Something along those lines. And they're like, let's say 12 weeks of school, which is 5K per week, right? So another school will charge the same 60K that my school is probably charging, but they'll allow them do it every every week. So some weeks, if the parents can afford 5K, they'll tell the kids to sit at home. So in fact, what the parents are doing is that you go to school 1 week, you miss 1 week because they've got 3 kids. So that's like 15K. So if the parents are able to generate 15K this week, the kids go to school this week. If the parents are not able to generate 15K next week, the kids don't go to school, which works for the parents. It's almost like pay as you go. So they go to school 1 week, they miss another week. And then when they go back, they copy the notes, do the assignments in arrears, like that. I mean, how is that going to be effective education? Some people even ensure that the kids only go 1 week every month. So if they've got 3 kids, they spend 15K this month, they will then wait till next month. And then they go to the houses of some of the other kids in the evening to copy the notes and to get the assignment. These are big problems. Maybe we also focus on our paper that is on academia, on education SDG 4. If you type my name into Google and you will see, maybe one of the other things that we also see that is happening is that maybe there's too much focus on formal education. Maybe all the answers are not in the formal education. Maybe when it comes to education, we need to be able to say, you know what, how can we also ensure that our informal education is properly organized and properly driven so that the vulcanizers and the mechanics can have a certain type of education? And we should not necessarily be trying to push everybody towards either secondary school or towards universities or towards polytechnics. And maybe there's a different way to think about this and to approach it. All right. I run a polytechnic transformation college. You see it online. We run a free school. It's an NGO. You can type transformation college onto Google. It's a free school. Guess what? Online school, but people are not coming because the average person wants to do Yahoo, wants to do crypto, not coming to learn in a school. So we have a free school, a free polytechnic accredited by MBT, Board of Technical Education, an accredited school being run for free, and we struggle to get students in. We're running 3 courses. We don't even have up to 100 students. The people are doing over the weekend, They don't really want to learn those things. We're planning an artificial intelligence thing. How do we get people to come to learn rather than focus on trying to do Yahoo, crypto, and then the other people do events over the weekend and do all sorts of other things, rather than the things that will help them. So there's a cultural shift from education generally as it is. Let me move on very quickly, right? Because of our time. Once again, this is a big problem. Okay. And in our paper that is also online, you'll find it on Academia, I like to believe, right? We said, when we say gender automatically, right, it means women, 99.9%, right? But, and I'd like to hear from everybody in the chat room here. Is there also gender inequality towards male? When we say inequality when it comes to gender, the focus is always that women, and there's data to prove that, and I'm not taking that away. I'm not underplaying that. There's generally that we're talking about the inequality with regards to women. Or is there also some kind of inequality with regards to males? Females versus males. Is there gender inequality? Because I mean, my job is to question the norm, to think about what are some of the things that these things don't cover. I've told you that number 16 should be goal 1 for Africa. Every other thing is as a result of for number 16. And we talk about strong justice and strong institutions. So here, is there inequality towards men, towards males? Is there some form of inequality towards males in some other parts of the country? So some people will say that, oh, maybe in the northern part, right? Maybe in the northern parts of the country, that, oh, women are not allowed to go to school, there's this, there's that, right? But is there also things that are against males? There's some inequality that, that if you're going to deploy people to war, you're going to pick males. If you're going to put people to go become terrorists, it is the males that will end up being number 1. If people are going to go out to school, it is the males. Is there, in some parts of the country, some inequality, some opportunities that males are kept from? Thereby, the average of it can be 95 to 5%. But that this inequality also happens to male rather than just females. Can we question that? Is it assumed that it is all, if you're going to pick, who is more prone to being a kidnapper, to being a bandit that is on the high street, on the highway? So, if you're going to get people to climb poles for electricity in very unsafe in a very unsafe manner, who are you going to pick? Is there inequality towards male? Because this thing talks about gender. How we have now completely interpreted the gender that it's only women and girls. And I'm not saying the percentage, I'm not saying that's not true. Once again, but is there a portion? And I like your thoughts. As I said, I don't have answers to all these things. I definitely would like to have your thoughts in this regard. Okay? Water and sanitation. Big deal. We had a webinar some weeks ago, my friend Dakpo Omalade, and we can share, the team will share the link to that webinar on sanitation. Okay. Right. And he was talking about different things. It was brilliant. Okay. My thing is, the things we need to do to address water, specifically, is slightly different from the things we need to do to address sanitation. once again, I would love to have Mr. Raji Fashala. Somebody should please link me up with him. I can't pay him the kind of money people pay him to come to speak, but he can do it for love of the people. After all, this is free, right? He was talking about how in Lagos State, they started doing sanitation at night. That because they realized that, picking refuse during the day was causing traffic in different locations. So they came up with stuff to do at night. Then that now created some challenges and also created some opportunities. Okay? But water is a different conversation. While there is a link between these two things, I think if any state or local government or even at the federal level has to really think about this, they're two different things. The other thing is that there are different ministries and departments and agencies that deal with water, and there's a different set that deals with sanitation. So while the global UNDP, UN have put water and sanitation together, they're actually two distinct things. And one size as the solution does not fit all. One size does not resolve it. One size does not provide the answer to the other one. How, of course, there is a link between poor sanitation leading to water being contaminated. But you have to think about the entire life cycle of water in terms of how it is generated in itself and how it is distributed. And if the generation and the distribution of water is adequate, before we talk about the contamination of it in itself. And then you have to now look at the multi-dimension of sanitation. Because sanitation is a big deal. I was jogging some weeks ago, and one big company, manufacturing company, released some things into the public gutter water drainage, and the whole place was stinking. And I was asking myself that this is right in the smack in the middle of town. How can this be happening? How of course, where we do our refuse dump can end up contaminating the water available in that area. But we have to think about it. Now, how do we even generate water? Government generated, personal generated? How does that water get transmitted, like electricity, distributed to ensure that it gets into the hands of people? Before we then look at the entire gamut of things that are tied to sanitation in itself. Open defecation, what does it really affect? Sanitation or water? Once again, this is a big deal. These are the things you want to talk about. How the companies that do a lot of manufacturing work, how do they contribute to this? What happens with regards to the management of water? People talk about how you can take a bath and then ensure that you get the water and use it for something else. That's what they talk about. But we don't even have enough water. You're talking about taking a bath. People don't even take a bath all the time because they don't even have water. People have limited water. You're talking about how they can even conserve and use it for other purposes. We're saying that they don't even have enough to cook, to eat, to do all sorts of things, to drink. And then you look at sanitation. I think these are two different things. And because they put them together under Goal 6, does not mean that one size in terms of activities will solve and resolve it for both. Some of these things, we're talking about 5 years' time. 5 years' time is not a long time. Ghana is going to it is going to do elections in another 30-something days, thereabout. By the time we're talking about 2030, that new government would have just completed it. They're probably going for their second term. I mean, so the indicators whether Africa can meet any of these things in 2030 is almost nil. And let me speak specifically about West Africa and maybe some parts of East Africa. It's almost nil that these things will happen. Once again, these are some of the things you really want to think about. All right. Some of the recommendations that I like to call them the recommendations of somebody who's not really feeling these things. They're not in this environment. They don't know how bad these things are. So some of those recommendations, you have to come up with what works. What works in one local government in Nigeria might not work in another local government. What is the most sensible thing in one state might not be the most sensible thing in another state. What works in Nigeria might not necessarily work out of the box for Ghana. So they've got to be different. Okay? So once again, we talk about energy. And here you can see that they've included sustainable and modern energy. And I think about this, and somebody says, oh, all of us should go to solar panels. I'm like, do you know the cost of a solar panel? Like, are you aware? Are you removed from the problems of everyday people? And do you really understand the cost of solar panels? What does renewable energy mean to people who are struggling to eat? What does that mean? In a place in Ibadan, my friend says that they've not had electricity in that place in the last 2 years. That's what he said. And he's not lying. And that's in Ibadan. It's in an urban location. He said they have not had electricity. So when we read some of the things that we hear globally and the people are talking about green energy, we don't have black or blue or yellow or red energy. Green is not the first thing that we're thinking about. We even need any form of real energy. Before we even talk about green or sustainable or modern, can somebody help me check the statistics? What is the electricity coverage in the whole of Ghana? This is the electricity coverage in the whole of Nigeria. The electricity to the homes across the whole country. We're talking about big problems here. So when we're looking at this, you're like, sustainable is not even a word for the poor. It's not a word for the poor. The poor, they're not concerned with anything that is sustainable. Poor people are just looking for anything that they can get. And I mean, in Lagos, the average person gets $1,000 per day. And those people are still richer than a lot of people. Because that is $30,000 a month. Now, $1,000, I mean, really. So maybe sometimes when we're thinking about these things, we think about it because we are not amongst the poor. There's nobody that is here that is amongst the poor. Zero that is amongst the poor on this call. How do we deal with these things? Once again, share your thoughts with me. Okay. Economic growth. When we're having this discussion in the office with the researchers, I said to them, what does decent work mean? Decent? What does decent mean? What does productive employment? What on earth do those things mean? All right? Decent work, productive employment, economic growth. They said that the private sector can contribute and it's in their hands. I disagreed with something that Mr. Babatunde Fashola said. He said, oh, a lot of things depend on the government, but he also has something to say. And when he said it, I looked at it and Mr. Raji Fashola, I think you're beginning to get you're removed from what people feel. He said that, oh, that this is what he said. He said that there's a portion of all these things that don't lie with the government. Yes, that's what he said. So there's a portion of all these things that don't lie with the government. So the portion that does not lie with the government is the part that has got to do with landlords collecting rent. So the landlords are collecting rent on an annual basis or even for 2 years or something like that. And that the landlords can move to the collection of rent monthly, like they do in Europe and in all sorts of other places. And that the trickle down effect of that is big. And I understand where it was coming from. Right? That if you, is that how can we tell people who are just getting jobs, who are going to be paid in arrears, because you and I get paid 30 days after, to pay 1 year's rent or 2 years' rent in advance? He said that, how can that work? Somebody is going to pay rent in arrears, right? In advance, sorry, and he's going to earn or get a salary in arrears at the end of the month. But he's definitely not looking at it from, where did the landlord get the money to build the house? Did he borrow money? Right? That place that he's letting out, how is he going to recoup his investment? What about if he just built it? Do you know the interest rate, overall interest rates in Nigeria from a commercial bank? Can anybody tell me or put it in the chat room? Is it less than about 30% when they add all the other charges? 30% at the end of 1 year, 12 months. 30%. There's hardly any business that you can do that you're going to get more than 20 or 25%. So that means there's hardly anybody that can do any real business, except some few people that work for, they deal in dollars, the nature of their own organization and things like that. There's hardly anybody that is going to do more than 20 or 25% at the end of the year. So that means you can't borrow money from the bank or take money from the bank to do any kind of normal business. We can say that the public sector can contribute to economic growth. We can. I mean, that makes sense. However, the overall economic environment belongs to the government. It belongs to the government, belongs to the states, belongs to the federal government. And the specific actions that they can take relative to these things. I want to quickly finish this slide because I still have something else and I'll move on. Resilient infrastructure. You've got to be in the urban cities to be talking about infrastructure. Industrialization. Have you been to villages? Do some of you still go to villages? Do you still visit your village? Or do you know anything about village work? All right? Because everything can be urban. And once again, I like to call this triple I. That's what I like to call it, triple I. Well, the I's are different, but each of these things, they mean something else entirely. It's like this one. So they've mixed too many things into some of these goals. They've added too many things because economic growth is one thing and it's different from productive employment. They're two different things. Can find the links. I can tell you the links. I know about the links. This is my work. However, the interventions to address them, they're two completely different things. I can put productive employment and decent work into one group, but economic growth is a different group, completely different group. It's a completely different group. Economic growth versus productive employment and decent work. They're two different things. There's a line of intersection, but your interventions will be different. Productive employment is just one tiny area of the overall economic growth. People don't have employment. Let's not start to qualify it. People don't have decent work. They don't have work. let's not talk about the decency of work. If the people don't have employment, the conversation around productive employment is a different conversation. If people don't have work at all, then you're not talking about decent work. These are two different things. And the way by which they should be dealt with, they're different and they should be different. Right? Once again, it's about this one, triple I. The triple I model, which is what this talks about. Infrastructure. All right? You talk about industrialization or industries, and then innovation. Once again, these are three completely different things. Infrastructure development, there's a link. Once again, I'm not ignoring the link. I'm not saying there's no link, but I'm saying categorically that that's just the link. You say you have infrastructure, you have bridges, you have all sorts of things. And I'll talk about industrialization, the various industries that are being enabled. Then you now talk about innovation and what we can call innovation centers, and how innovation will not just also be tied to innovation centers, but can be decentralized and dispersed. Now, this looks like a first world problem. Because when you go to some villages, they definitely don't have infrastructure. They have little or no industries. And there's definitely, the conversation of innovation does not even come in, except they come up on their own with some kind of homegrown type innovation. The idea behind this conversation is, what do we need to do about these things? This is not being here for being here's sake. This is not listening for listening's sake. This is not just, the theory of these things. This is about how you go back to your own organization, to your own sphere of influence, and start to address these things. That is what this is about. And so that you're thinking about it right. Because the SDG out of the documentation directly is not going to be very useful. You're going to have to adopt and adapt your solution. And everybody, please take that away. You're going to have to adopt certain solutions and adapt them to your own community, to your own environment. You're going to have to adopt a set of solutions and then do a form of adaptation. You can't copy what Lagos State is doing in other states. Every state has got its own unique circumstances. Every state has got what we call its own SWOT, your own strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and your threats as a state, even as a local government, definitely as a country. All right. Okay, so I'll move on very quickly. Inequality, right? And this is a big conversation. And once again, I believe I have this paper on academia. And when we were doing inequality, I think we ended up looking at about 10 different types of inequalities, or 12, right? Inequality by race, inequality by location, inequality based on education, inequality based on religion, inequality based on the part of the country that you're coming from or that you're from. In Ghana, there are some tribes that will never get to, pretty much some of those tribes are marginalized from almost any and everything. Inequality based on political affiliation. The same thing in Nigeria. Some tribes, inequality is right based on age. Those things that they say that abroad, that they'll say that, oh, you can hire a 60-year-old person or 65 for a role. Not in Africa. Inequality based on one the disability or the other, on one physical challenge or the other. Inequality based on religion. Definitely inequality based on status. Like, your certain social cadre. Inequality based on these things. So once again, it talks about inequality. Now, we can get very philosophical if we start to say, should we have equality in itself? Does that make sense? Should we ordinarily have equality everywhere? Now, if we say we should, What areas do we prioritize? What is the root cause of having inequality based on political affiliation? If I'm from one political party, why do I have more opportunities in comparison to another? If I come from one religion, why should I have access to more natural resources or national resources than others? Okay, so you have to go think about this. This is not a theoretical class. It's not a university class where I just want to teach and then throw the marker or the chalk at the students when I'm done. That's not the idea. The idea is for us to formulate a think tank. And I don't really like to use the word think tank because that's used all the time. And when people say there's a think tank, does not necessarily mean that the tank or the thinking is doing anything of its own. But for us to form a community of people who are focused on getting results. Thank you for coming here. I'm getting results. Mine is education. That's why I have a polytechnic. All right. That's why I'm the founder of a polytechnic that runs free school. All right. Free tuition. Okay. Anyways, we'll move on very quickly. Our cities. I mean, what can you and I do about the city? And why are we only focused on the cities? Should be the cities and every kind of human settlement. Why is it that the people are in the villages are treated differently? They have access to less things. Because I live in the village, does that mean healthcare I'm banned from good healthcare? Why is it that some of the amenities provided are only available in the cities at the detriment of the villages? How are we trying to ensure that the villages go extinct? Is that the plan? Is that the idea? Is that what we're trying to achieve? That the villages will no longer exist after a while? I don't think that should be the idea. I don't think so. I think our villages should still exist. I think you and I need to ensure that it's not only the urban settlements that are that have all the needed amenities. And whatever it is that we're doing also needs to be extended to the non-urban areas. Once again, is this a problem for the poor? Is it sustainable consumption? How? 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 The people don't have anything to consume. The people can't think. Maybe I'm an advocate for the poor. The people can't even think about how to even produce properly. They'll take what they can get. They'll do what they can do to survive. You can't tell them. So when you tell them that, oh, the people keep going to break pipelines and they do vandalization. You know, once again, as I said, I watch Arise News a lot in Nigeria when I'm in Nigeria. And they said that a tanker fell and people were going to scoop full. And once again, it was Mr. Rufai. He said, oh, that the excuse. And I like Rufai. It's just that I disagree with his thoughts a lot of times. And he screams a lot, so it gives me some kind of anxiety. Like, okay, why are you always quarrelsome like this? You can get your point across without necessarily quarreling. Say a tanker had fallen, and because the tanker had fallen, that people went to scoop. And then, of course, you know, in such a situation, the slightest thing, people will, there'll be a reaction, and then there's fire, and then a lot of people died. I can't remember what state it was. That was just like last week or 2 weeks ago. And he said that the excuse to say that because they are hungry is not a good enough excuse. Once again, I understand where he's coming from. But he also doesn't understand that it's actually poverty. And I think it's the other man, Ruben, that then said it that, don't you really realize that it is poverty that will make people know that they most likely might die while they're doing the scooping of fill. But the people will judge it that, or one group will judge it that better to take the risk of dying than not get a portion of this fall so that I can sell. On one hand. And then don't you think there is poverty that is also the cause of the fact that these people, they just don't care? Or they're even unaware. Isn't the poverty that will lead to them just being unaware of the risks around death that can emanate from this? Now, don't you realize that? So when we now talk about the consumption that is sustainable, I don't think you're talking to the poor. The poor will do whatever it is that they can do. They will break the law. They'll do whatever it is to be able to continue with their lives. If there is no law or rule of order, they will even go worse. I'm not sure religion, morality, ethics will change that situation. I don't think so. We need to launch what I like to call WAP. WAP, War Against Poverty. And private institutions, individuals, entities from everywhere need to all be involved with WAP, the war against poverty, because the poor are not worried about sustainable consumption and production patterns. Now, if we now come to you and I, who are not the poor, then we should worry about how we consume electricity, water, all sorts of other things, natural resources. We should worry about the kinds of fuel we use, the kinds of machines we use, the kinds of equipment we use in our production environment. We should worry about those things. We should worry about the climate. We should worry about green. We should worry about these kinds of things. We, the non-poor, I don't know whether I'll call us rich, but we're definitely the non-poor that are involved in big things, that have houses. And we should definitely worry about sustainable consumption and sustainable production. We should. And this is not a problem for the poor. Climate change, once again, this is not a problem for the poor. You can't speak to people who have been eating about these kinds of things. But you and I, that are non-poor, we should worry about climate change. Awareness, inclusiveness, conversations, whatever. Should worry about climate change. Should do something about climate change. We should. In our own capacity, whatever it is that we can do in our offices, in our organization, our CO2 emission, our whatever gas emission from our office, our net zero plans, whatever it is that we're doing, we should take these things into consideration. I want to quickly finish this so that I can take your thoughts and opinion. I'm hoping that people are writing in the chat room, and I'll go through the other slide and we'll bring this to a beautiful close, right? Life underwater, a big deal. Life underwater is a big deal. Fishing, everything that is tied to the ocean, to the seas, to the various marine resources for sustainable development, right? Overfishing, illegal fishing. Yeah, we should. But this is not for people that the only form of survival that they have in their environment is to get the fish. They will do anything. They will break the law. The only thing that can stop them is the consequences of breaking the law, the penalties. They will now have to judge the penalties of breaking the law and the likelihood of the law being enacted over them. They will have to worry about that. But you that you're a corporate organization, you're the representative of a corporate organization, you should worry about this thing, especially if this is your line of work. On the water, on sea, oceans, and marine resources I've forgotten the specific percentage, contributes to Lagos State, for example, contributes to Nigeria's economy. So we have to think about sustainability. I always say that, SDG people have stolen the word sustainability from normal human beings that use it in English. Proud to everybody talking about sustainability. The sustainable English word just means that thing can be done specifically into the future. So you can talk about sustainable generally as an English word. But in modern day, we can't really do that. So in modern day, when you say sustainable, it means SDG, it means ESG as it is. Maybe somebody should also tell us what's the difference between SDG, ESG, and CSR. And there are different ISO standards that guide those things. There are different ISO standards that guide a lot of these things. All right, let me quickly move on here. Terrestrial ecosystem above water. This is also tied to our forests, our farmlands, whatever it is that we're doing in our terrestrial ecosystem, and many of these things. It pertains to you and I. How do we do sustainable farming? How do we do sustainable irrigation? How do we do sustainable development? How do we do these things? Plant a tree. When you take down one tree, you should plant 2 others. How do we ensure that the soil is not completely destroyed? ISO 14001, the environment. How are we destroying the environment? So when we start to talk about environment, we start to talk about it from here. Start to talk about ISO 14001 all the way from 11, from 11, 12, 13, 14, those goals. ISO 14001. And that's why environmentalists believe that SDG is about them, but SDG is beyond you. Oh, SDG is definitely beyond you. As an environmentalist, it's way beyond what it is that you do. SDG is the SDG also deals with fundamental human rights of the United Nations. So it's beyond just the environment, but of course there's some very environmental specific areas in there. But for me, this is the most important one. This is the most important one from where I sit. It's this one. It is this one, the rule of law. Effectiveness of all the arms of the government, our policing, all right? The execution of our constitution and the management of our constitution, our election process. For me, accountability for all our leaders. This should, if I was writing the 17 goals, this would be goal number 1. This definitely has to be goal number 1 by every means. If you don't deal with this, every other thing is just dealing with the symptoms as it is. And of course, there's partnerships. All right. Partnerships are a big deal. You can't get anything done all by yourself. You've got to be able to partner appropriately. All right. So that's part 1, everybody. So that's part 1. Let me quickly go through this part 2, because the remaining part of this course is for us to just have discussion. And we will share the slides with you. It's not a problem. We will share the slides with you. So it's the same things that I have here. It's the same things that I have here. Okay? It's the same things that I have here. Well, we've dealt it here. Because this is important. And I know we did a lot of work to get government institutions here. And we're going to do this again sometime next year. In the first half of the year, I'm going to look for time in my calendar. We're going to do this again. But the government institutions and the government workers need to realize that, they're the leaders. If you work for government here, you work as a state or federal, it doesn't matter. You're the leaders, and you as a public administrator of some sort, this is your thing to do. ESG here. All right? And I know I'm still in the meetings this week where GRI is a big conversation. Ensuring this. It's very interesting because companies sometimes come to us to help give them an ESG report, but they have not implemented ESG. Did you hear that? And there are 3 ISO standards here. If your company has not implemented ISO 14001 for environment, 26,000 for corporate social responsibility, and 37,000, did you hear that? 3 ISO standards, 14001, 26300, and 37300, completely in its entirety. I don't know how you're going to get this report. I think a lot of people come up with the reports, they come up with all sorts of things because they need to present it at the board meeting and, to make them look good. I don't really think people are really doing this. I don't think people are doing this. All right. Once again, everything in SDG, government is the owner. Government is the one that is meant to drive it. So we'll share the slides with you. Talked about this. It's not a problem. We will share the slides with you. People want ESG, but they don't want to do the thing they need to do to be able to get ESG right. So once again, in Africa, we were taking a compliance and, like a surface, a superficial approach to this ESG. We have not implemented. It's like saying you want to do information security, you want a report, but you have not implemented the standard. How do you get an ESG report if you have not implemented the standards? There are 3 standards for ESG: 14,001, 26,000, and 37,000. Go and look them up. If you have not implemented those things, I don't see how you're going to be able to get an ESG report that is not fictitious, that is not superficial, that is not just, playing to the gallery. There are 3 ISO standards that is tied to this, right? And once again, look at this. And I like this slide a lot because it also shows you that by getting those 3 standards, so in a sense, I can do something here. Let me do something very quickly here. I can do this. If you want to do ESG, you have to do ISO 14001, which is for environment. I don't know why people don't realize this. Everybody's talking about it, but they're not dealing with the real, because there are requirements and recommendations for this. This is for corporate. Oh, it actually just calls it doesn't even put the corporate there. It calls it social responsibility. That's what it calls it. Okay? And then if you come here, you have to do ISO 37000, which is also calls it for governance. These are documents. The 3 documents will come up to about how many pages? About maybe 200 pages thereabout of requirements. Requirements plus recommendations. I'm sorry, what did I just do? Oh, requirement. Oh no, sorry. Why is this? What did I just click on? Yes. Of recommendations to be implemented and adopted. Clearly. But people want ESG reports without implementing the standard, which is equal, let me say, is equal to ESG implementation and reporting. Why are you interested in the report when you haven't done the work? How does that even work, for crying out loud? You don't want to do the implementation, but you want to get the report. the GRI report comes down to this. And if you have done it, it then shows alignment to SDG. That means on the basis of that, your organization can then show some kind, which is then equal to SDG alignment for your organization. How is it that people are worried about the GRI? They want the GRI aligned reports without doing the work. Isn't that like, are you hoping for a fictitious report? Are you hoping for a report that says you have done something when you have not done that thing? Is that the plan? That what you're trying to do? I hope you can still see my screen, everybody. And this is a big deal for corporate and government institutions. You need to get these things done. It then shows your alignment to the SDGs. Well, this is beyond just environment. It's beyond just corporate social responsibility. And it's definitely beyond just corporate governance. Lawyers are worried about corporate governance and company secretary. People in the CSR department are worried about social. People in the health safety department are worried about the environment. But you need the three of them. That's why it's called ESG. Right? ESG is equal. Right? The ESG is equal to three things. Three key things. There are no workarounds to this. You cannot explain it away. You cannot wish it away. So every time people call me, I'm like, I don't really want to do this because you have not implemented the standard. Well, how can I give you a report? I can do a gap assessment for you. But, all right, people, this is it. So I'll move on very quickly because of time. As I said, we've talked about this. But one of the things we've included in this particular slide is the factors that are contributing to it, significance of this. But let me show you. Okay, here we have some indicators. And I think we've already spoken about some of these things. Because we're going to share the link so that everybody can have their test, they can have their exam, and you can generate your certificate. It's good for you, but it's beyond just certificate generation. This is an accredited course. We have other courses here. Okay. Measures to reduce it. We have some recommendations here. Broad recommendations. But here you can see we have some partners and we have some MDAs. We have some MDAs. I was speaking to states recently, and the people shrugged us off. They said, "Oh, we're already on top of this. We're good. Blah blah blah." I said, "Okay." But I was asking them for a document that already has this mapping, and that document does not exist. But nobody wants to be told that they're not doing the right thing, so I just kept quiet. Okay. Entities in Ghana that also have responsibilities towards this. When the 2 books that we're working on come out, we're going to share them for free. So we'll send them to you. We're working on the progress report for both. This year, I'm working on the progress report for both Lagos and Nigeria overall. Next year, I'm going to work on the progress report for both Accra and Ghana overall. So, all right, same thing here. We've got factors that contribute to it. Have the challenges in food distribution. I mean, very clear problems. Very clear problems. Okay. I have a question for everybody. Which of all these things will deal with what's that thing called? Terrorism. Which SDG deals with security? Is that number 16? That's why I said 16, it should be number 1. Which of these things will deal with accommodation for the poor? Which of them will deal with accommodation for the poor? Will it be something in number 8? Is that where it will be? Or what will deal with accommodation? Will it be number 1? Will it be number 8? Do we put it under number 9? Which of these goals deals specifically? If I was writing this, I'm not going to hide accommodation under anywhere. The provision of shelter for the vulnerable and the less privileged. It happens everywhere around the world. Why will I not? I will take it out. I will take it out of any of these things and put it solidly on its own. If the goals have to get to 25, I will put them, but I'll separate some of these things. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Separate them. Separate these things so that it's very clear what each of them is addressing. Clean water versus sanitation. They're 2 different things. Even governance under number 16 versus when it comes to the rule of law and to justice. So I will separate them. If I have to get all the way to 25, I will get to 25. Because they're different things. There's no way I'm going to submerge accommodation either under 8 or under 9. Right? Especially the accommodation for the poor is what I'm referring to here. Where will it be? Why is it submerged here? Don't you understand that there's no way that the poor and the less privileged and the vulnerable are going to ever have their own accommodation? In the US, they always talk about government accommodations. They are not perfect. They're called in the Bronx, in the hood, in areas that are not great, but they are better than nothing else as it is. They are better than nothing else. Right. But once again, that's another challenge as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this. Okay. What do we do for food? What are the key things, key interventions with regards to food? What should we be doing with regards to food? All right. If we move on very quickly. Okay. I mean, we can be here all day. This is a training class that we've reduced. Normally we've got 3 courses, like the one we do in a day, which is like the executive one. This one that we're doing is over 2 days. And then we have the one that we do over like a 4-day period. So, okay, if I move on. The MDAs that deal with food. Who are the people? Where is the government, the state government document or the federal government document that does a mapping? Where is the state or federal government document that does a mapping between the goals and the entities within the state or the entities at the federal level that own the responsibility for that particular goal? There should be a mapping document. There's no mapping document. Somebody, if there is, put the link in the room that maps it for Ghana, that every SDG goal, SDG, these are the entities at the national level in Ghana. So some of these things, they're like, me as a private person, as a researcher, I'm the one that has got to now have to come up with these things. All right. So once again, health. What do we need to do? There's not one goal here. Now, Nigeria can score 5 over 10. Maybe I'm wrong. Once again, you can put your thoughts in the chat room. We're all going to have a lot of conversations. That's how we're going to bring the session to a beautiful close. Share your thoughts with me. Which of the goals do we score above 5? Go and look at the 17 of them. Where do we score above 5? I'm not sure. I want to have a summit next year. We will be having a summit in the year 2025. If you know Mr. Raji Fashala or you know Mr. Sanwo-Olu, please help me beg them to come to speak to the people. Mr. Raji can talk about the past. Mr. Sanwo-Olu can talk about the present, His Excellency or their excellencies. Okay. I'd definitely love to hear from them. If they will grace our summit next year, 2025, I think we have a date in July. If they would agree to grace the summit, I mean, that will be excellent. That will be excellent. I know Mr. Sanwo-Olu's one is going to be much harder. His itinerary is always overly packed. Well, who knows? I might be able to get him or get Mr. Raji to come. So that this is not a government organized one. This is a private institution organized one. So we can tell him how we feel. We can bring some of these things to bear, and he can share his thoughts. This is what he did in his own time. So maybe we'll actually write to him. I might think it's a long shot, right? And he might just respond. Who knows? Who knows? He might just respond, right? We'll probably be holding it at the British Council sometime in July of next year. Who knows? So Esther, let's write to Mr. Raji Fashala. He might answer us. We don't know. Anyways, these are big issues. These are recommendations. Okay. And then MDAs that own the responsibility. These are the MDAs that own the responsibility for this. Okay. In Ghana also, I'm going to put a lot of attention on Ghana for next year. We're going to do the research. We're going to go to different ministries from parastatals. We're going to spend a lot of, we're going to focus our research on Ghana for next year. Ghana comes to forefront for us next year. Education, I mean, this one I can talk about it all day. I can talk about this all day. The entities that own the responsibilities. The entities that own the responsibilities. Once again, share your thoughts with me. Share your thoughts in the chat room. All right? Share your thoughts with me. Look at the entities that own for gender. Shouldn't we have Ministry of Men Affairs? Should we have Ministry of Men Affairs? Are men overlooked? Why should the interpretation of Goal 5 be only for women? Why? Is that correct? Is that accurate? Is that appropriate? I don't think so. Doubt. Good. Clean water and sanitation. I already spoke about this a lot. Who owns this responsibility in Nigeria? Who owns this responsibility in Ghana? How can we have? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, as I said, there's no goal where we can score 5 over 10 as a country. How can we have all these entities? Maybe they're doing their bits. Maybe some are doing a lot and some are not doing enough. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I haven't met all of them. I haven't worked in all of them. I haven't worked with all of them. Sorry. I haven't worked inside of any. I live in my house and I work with my own organization. So, but how can you have these entities? I mean, this is a lot of entities for one goal. And overall, as a country, we don't score 5 over 10. What is wrong? Why? Why? Affordable and clean energy? Why is this still a national problem? It was a national problem when I was born. My mom, I'm about being, I'm about to be 50, and it's still a national problem. It's been a national problem my entire lifetime for almost 50 years. Really? Why? 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 Why is this a problem for 50 years? Recent work and economic growth. This one we can be here for years, right? We can be here for years. Can be here just talking about this for an entire year. Unfortunately, we don't have the whole year, so right? What do we need to do about this? Goal 9. This is a very complex goal. I mean, this is a very complex goal. So it's too convoluted as far as I'm concerned. Triple I. It's a very convoluted set of goals. Industry, innovation in infrastructure. Those are 3 distinct things. There's a line of connection, but to really address them at the national, state, and local government level, ew, it's a lot. Inequalities, we've talked about this. Are there entities that own the responsibility for inequality? Absolutely. Entities that own the responsibility for inequality? Absolutely, without a doubt. I judge it that there's no goal where we score 5 over 10. People, please, you can disagree with me. You can use data to disagree with me. You can even use your thoughts and your opinion. Now, where do we score? Maybe in Ghana, they score, Bill, my friend, is here. Maybe in Ghana, they score more than 5 in some areas. We'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about it. Maybe in Ghana, they score above 5 in certain areas. Maybe. Because in this document, we've also put some recommendations. I mean, they're broad recommendations. I mean, these are very complex goals, right? I mean, sustainable cities and communities, because it's not talking about cities and communities, it's talking about sustainable ones. That's a lot. Sustainability, beyond just being a buzzword, beyond just being fanciful, oh, that's a lot. That is going to be a lot. Responsible consumption and production. Once again, there are entities that own these things. And that's one of the things that I've seen. A lot of people don't even know the entities that have mandates relative to some of these things. Some people they don't know that there are actual entities that are defined state and government type entities that own the responsibility and the mandates that align to the goals. We've done quite a bit of that mapping in here. It might not be complete, it might not even be 100% correct, but we've done some work there. We've done some work in terms of the mapping between the goals and the entities in Ghana and Nigeria that own this responsibility. Climate action. Yep. I mean, climate action. We have Department of Climate Change in Nigeria. Meteorological Agency, I mean. I have plenty. Same thing in Ghana, they've got theirs. So what we try to do is identify maybe top 10 in Nigeria, top 10 in top 5 in Ghana. This has nothing to do with whether it's a complete list, but we do this out of our own pocket. So hey, and we definitely have limited resources. Right? everything that has got to life underwater, everybody. The entities of the government that own the responsibility for life underwater. The governance and the management, life underwater. And also in Ghana, underwater and above water. Right? On land, yeah, above water, on land. So who has the responsibility for land? Yeah. Right. Not sure about this mapping. This mapping is wrong here. This mapping is actually wrong. This is not right. These ones are the ones for 16, actually. So apologize. These ones are the ones for 16, not 15. This mapping is for 16, not 15. Okay. Yeah, but this mapping is for 15. So that mapping that that was put there was put in the wrong place. But this is for Ghana for 15. We'll correct it before we share it with you. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the right mapping. Yeah. So the one under 15 is the wrong one. So we'll correct it. Okay. And lastly, and also in Ghana, and partnerships for the goals. All right, people. Once again, I'm happy to hear from you. Let's go to the chat room. Who's going to moderate the chat room for me? Aha. So where do I start from? There are so many things people are putting in the chat room. Where do I start from? Who's going to moderate this chat room for me? All right. So somebody's talking about the movie called Boycott. So we should all go look at it. That's it. Real one says here. So Peter says we should go look at the movie called Boycott. And everybody, if you also want to speak, please switch on your mic. This is the time for us to hear from people. So please switch on your mic. Thoughts, comments. Let's do it in some kind of orderly manner. But I definitely need to hear from about 5-6 people before we finish this course. What is your big takeaway? What is your learning point? What has come to mind? What has crossed your mind throughout today that we've been in this session? Please let me hear from some people. Please go ahead. Go ahead. In the chat room, Real One said victim involved in poverty is more than CSR. Absolutely. That's what I said. It looks as our intervention is less than, and it's not like there are no interventions, but the intervention is not is not enough to cover what is on ground. Insecurity, Lemmy says, Abdulkadir says, 16. Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much, Abdulkadir. Oh, that's my point. Let's stay on that point. That that's the root of all evil. Yeah, as I said, Janet, I'm not saying poverty isn't. I'm just saying that governance is the one that has brought poverty. Goals, but implementation seems to be a huge gap. We said it. The problem is always execution. Amina says that governance is the issue. I don't know whether the leaders are the problem. I don't want to indict anybody, but I know that governance, but you can't talk about governance without leadership. So, you're right. All right. You're right. Real one. Can you rearrange the goals to suit individual? Oh yeah, absolutely. There's nothing. Nobody's going to get a cane to beat you. So you can you can actually rearrange the goals based on your priority at the national or state level. Is that number 13? Let me hear. Says that number. If I say 16 and it says 13, I'm not sure. Climate action is meaningless to the poor. All right. Climate action, completely meaningless to the poor. Waziri says, how can you end or reduce poverty without providing employment? Yeah, but it's more than just employment, right? It's more than just employment. So it's the state government, the federal government needs to reorder their priorities, but it's more than just employment. 13 shouldn't come first. Right? People that are deprived, that don't have food, that don't have accommodation, climate action is not important to them. Trust me, climate action, completely meaningless to the poor. Yeah, the documents have never been executed. So we have a strategic plan in every country. Ghana has a strategic plan, but the strategic plan is not being implemented. Having policies in place does not make the difference. They're not implemented. Absolutely. What's the point of a policy that you don't have any evidence of implementation? So all those nice documents are just nice documents. Government is simply an organization of selected specials, power of territories. So I agree when you say, please, oh yeah, governors. I mean, this is my work also. I mean, I know this is your work also, but this is also my work. And I've looked at it, we've thought about it, we've analyzed it, and we realized that you've used other countries to say governance is the root of all problems. Leadership and governance, as I said, you can't take leadership away from governance. Waziri says, industry people purchasing power, yes. Economy, well, who drives the economy overall? It's the government, it's governance and leadership. Yeah, I mean, but I don't think there's any concerted effort. Maybe if we have somebody from the SDG office, I mean, I've given you the opportunity to speak. I will just be done with this reading. Somebody can tell us the concerted effort to help us look at to get us to the ideas in the 2030 document. I'm not sure there's any real concerted effort to get us to those ideas by 2030. Okay. Clean and affordable energy. Oh yes, I'm an energy commission. So somebody said energy commission should tell us what are they doing. Energy commission, somebody's calling you out. Please say what you're doing. I'm going to give people an opportunity to speak now. All right. Yes, confidence. I am the proprietor and the founder of Transformation College. Yes, I am. Right. Yes. Transformation College of Business and Technology, and we offer free courses. So please join us. We have free courses. We already have a 20. We are doing some right now, and we have a 2025 calendar. You can go online. I mean, we offer free training. Yes, I am the proprietor and the founder. Yes, and I have a beautiful, great team that works with me. Drastic inequality. Absolutely. I mean, Peter, I mean, when a woman is raped, all clap back at the abusers, but when a man suffers a similar or other types of fate, I mean, I don't think that gender, I think you should put men 5% or maybe 10%. I agree, women 90, but it can't be 100 to 0. There's some gender inequality towards men. All right. I mean, so Annette also says the same. There's definitely some. They're supposed to talk. No, I mean, these men now, you should suck it in. So, all right. Masculinity, yes, and the expectations from male. I mean, absolutely. Ghana has an electricity rate program. Thank you very much. Nigeria has a coverage rate of 60%. Do not have access. I mean, as of 2023. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. Daniel, thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, Ghana has 80 something. Nigeria has about 60 percent as of last year, right? And I'm not even sure that is better as at today, right? The other thing I want somebody to speak to: where do we score above 5? Where do we score 5 and above? And everybody is speaking in a minute. Please just take turns and please share your thoughts very quickly. I'd like to hear from you. Where is it in Nigeria that we score 5 and above? Gender equity, equal. Thank you very much, Chiwe. The conversation between equality and equity, and that diagram you find online that talks about equality and equity. Yes, I think so. I definitely agree with you, Chiwe. Right, Sukomi. Beyond it's about human rights. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know why people don't think that this thing also has to do with human rights. Those 30 elements of human rights is also part of what we're talking about. We will share it with you. If you're registered to come in here, we will definitely share it with you. Right. So yes, we'll share it with you, and we'll also share the recording. There's not a problem. Even we're still going to put it on YouTube. So some MDAs that are here, it's like, can we sue them? And yes, I'm not there. I'm not there. It's like, can we sue the So can we sue the MDAs that are in charge of these things? I'm not there. I don't want to be arrested. Yes, you get the recording and the lecture material. Yeah, I mean, so some of the MDAs, I mean, because these responsibilities belong to them. And as I said, inside of this document, the mapping is there. Away from the desired personality you wish to call for, so we could also storm their offices. And yet, are you an activist? And yet, Yakubu, Yeah, an activist of some sort. James said that I'm saying 5/10. That where do we score 2/10? James said I'm being too nice. That I'm saying 5/10. That he doesn't even see where we score 2/10 as it is. Yes, I agree. Yusuf Suleiman, that women should be. I mean, I agree. Is whether it should be 100-0 when it comes to gender is what I'm dealing with. That's why I'm saying that the things we do should be 90-10 or 95-5, not 100-0. Right? So that's what we're talking about, right? So you will get this link, you will get the recording. Yeah, so I'm concerned about the riverine areas. I mean that's a different conversation. Wastewater management and drinkable water, and how some exercises of some industries or some activities of some industries have direct links to the death of life and living organisms underwater. So, I mean, we have Adishola says we have this, we have a climate change. Absolutely. Once again, is it actionable? Is it measurable? The progress that is being made. Does the poor person get any value from here? Annette said again, it's sad morally, but the average lady you meet will tell you, I can't date him if he isn't earning. So there's pressure to, I mean, there's a lot of pressure. So I mean, even if 5% of that time is spent on 5% of the effort is spent on men, that definitely would be great. Uzuma even says, I don't agree that adults making an immoral decision to become fraudulent is the fault of another adult. Well, I mean, all of us have opinions about some of these things. So, I mean, there's no real right or wrong answers. I mean, but the point is that there are areas that I believe all of us need to address. The link to the school, somebody should please help me with the Transformation College link in the chat room. Yeah, somebody should please help me. Emmanuel Alkali says that the most important step is to address is getting the leadership right. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, they'll share the link. I shall lose it. I can date you. I'm available. Respond. Ah, oh my god! Like, I didn't even know that the chat room was buzzing like this. Is that right? I should write to someone. Yes, I will write to him and Fashola. So when we are having our summit next year, we will all be invited. All right, we want to have a physical summit, but even if we end up not, I mean, that's what we want to do. Even if we end up not having a physical summit, we will have something that is virtual, at the very least. But we're definitely having a summit. We already started working on it. We haven't started registering for the environmental safety management. We're focused on the other 3 courses. So because our accreditation for that particular one has not come through yet. So we're not working on those ones, but we're working on the other 3. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Please, Esther, share the link so that people can take their exams going forward. But I need to hear from people. So before you go, everybody, Esther, share the link in the chat room. I definitely want to hear from people. So please, can people start speaking very quickly? All right. Yes, Esther, please drop the link in the chat room. Let the people start clicking on it and to register to take the exam. We're going to close the portal by today or something. But yes, I want to hear from people. Please switch on your mics one after the other and give me your thoughts, your comments, your big learning points today. It's also very important that we capture your, what's that thing called? That we capture your feedback. So everybody, we're going to share the feedback form. It's an accredited course. We must share the feedback. So they're going to share 2 links in the chat room right now. If we don't get feedback from you, we will not share the slides with you. So please, I beg of you, give us feedback, because this is an accredited course and we must have feedback. And then, of course, you also will have to pass your exam. So please, let me start hearing from people. Please go ahead, sir. Anybody that wants to speak, please switch on your mic and give me your thoughts or your opinion. What's the big learning point from today? Please go ahead quickly.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Who's speaking?
Yeah. Oh, my name is Zanayo. I'm speaking from Nigeria.
Okay, good, sir. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. I want to commend you on this webinar precisely, and then taking time to delve into the main issues. Fantastic one. I enjoyed that. My challenge is Yes, we have these policies, and then the two countries that you mentioned, we all have that. The problem we know it's always the implementation. The government is not ready to implement. I can tell you that none of them, I can even score them 2. You were asking of 5. I'm not sure in Nigeria that I can score anyone. Here we're talking of zero hunger, and the present government is introducing more taxes. This is a country where we don't have the middle class again, and we're going back to having virtually everybody becoming poor, except if you have the high class and then the poor people. Now, what action should we take when it comes to this? The government is not accountable. The citizens are just looking. And we have these policies. What action should we take? Should we take the government to the court? We don't know. It's really a serious problem. And you know that if you take them to the court, at the end of the day, what do you get? They are still the ones controlling the court. They are still the one controlling everything. So how do we go about it? Because I see this SDG. The problem we have in the world, all the problems that we have in the world summarized under these SDGs. For me, being in the education sector, we try to give the children exposure to that. And we find that the government on their own side, government is not doing anything. What do you now advise us? You call the MDGs and nobody said anything. And I guess we have some of the representatives. I'm just a citizen. I mean, in the private sector, I'm not working for government. So what do we do? We're facing a serious problem in Nigeria. The government is busy talking about taxes, reforming and introducing more, whereas we don't have electricity, whereas we don't have good roads. We're not even saying government should provide employment for us again. We're saying create enabling environment for businesses to move on, for people to run their individual businesses. Here you are taxing us, increasing tariff every day. You wake up in the morning, you don't even know the next news you're going to hear, whether the fuel will be 1,500 or 2,000 naira, as the case may be. What do we do? How do we hold the government accountable? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your insights and your questions. I'm not even going to pretend I have all the those answers. So I'm going to ask somebody else. Annette, please, you can ask your question and then you can also answer ease, because it's not like I have the answers to these things, because even as I was saying it, even I was asking myself that really what can be done. In fact, the only thing that came to my mind is that maybe we just have to go back to prayers, because I don't even know what it is. So, Annette, please quickly, you go ahead. Right? Go ahead. Annette Yakubu.
Okay, yeah.
Annette Yakubu.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir, can you hear me?
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you now. We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Okay, so thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. I believe this initiative is something that should be on air. It should be everywhere. You're doing a wonderful stuff. I'm certainly just a university student in my 3rd year. I'm a medical student in my 3rd year. And I feel like if we wait for probably the executive government to do the work for us, it's going to be a serious problem. I think bringing it down is to realize that every Nigerian has a responsibility. I mean, sir, you're doing this and it's free. Somewhere in my heart, when I saw this update, I was like, somewhere along the line, they're going to tell me to pay some money. I don't work. Where am I supposed to pay for this course? And I'm like, let's see. And I'm shocked that it's free. So you're doing something to even make us aware of the problems and see the part we can play. One of the things that picked is that, there is the poor and there's the unpoor. Probably you might not be so rich, but you're not certainly poor. So that means there is somebody below you that you could send and reach out to, that you could give out the help to. And at another level, I also see that poverty is a mindset thing. So the problem is because for a lot of people, it's psychological. Poverty is psychological. So it's now a problem, medically for us. We see a lot of problems with people in the hospital. And when we begin to see the psychological aspect, we realize that when you keep giving them drugs, It's not even doing anything. We're giving them the right medications. It's not doing anything because the problem is psychological. So I feel like it take for me is that everybody, if you're part of this, if you're listening, we have a part to play. It might be so little, it might be to your neighbor next door, but you have a part to play as a Nigerian.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, thank you for that. That means ISO 26,000 applies to all of us, not just corporate, right? It is social responsibility. And I like the angle that she's put to it, that we definitely can have social responsibility as corporate. Well, every individual that can also do their own bit from a social responsibility perspective. Thank you very much for that. All right, let me hear from the next person. I have a couple of people. Uzoma, very quickly, go ahead. Uzoma, I put this flyer in the chat room. Uzoma, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. All protocols duly
Hi.
observed. Yes.
How you doing?
Of recent time, I actually realized why humanities existed, arts and humanities, like history, philosophy. And it's because it tells us where we used to be and where we are and where we're going to. It also lets us know how other societies used to be and where they are and where they are going to, where they were and where they are going to. So I would bring the China case study. Less than 40 years ago, China was a very poor nation. They didn't open up. They didn't want to learn from others. Just, if anyone has time, go on Amazon and watch about China's history. It's under 40 minutes, they were able to tell us how China had been a one-party state. And yet, China, for example, when it comes to SDG 7, China is the country with the most green energy, most powered nation by solar. And that's why when people bring up things like, can solar actually power us? Solars are running large-scale farms, even factories, industries, breweries, even here in Nigeria. The point I'm trying to make is this. What I learned from that video that I watched on Amazon was this. Nobody will do the work for you, one. And you will do the work from inside. You can't be outside screaming at, in quotes, the lawmakers. You must become part of those lawmakers. And that's where the 1999 set failed. The private sector 1999 failed because they thought, let's just do private sector and leave the less of us get into the system. And that's what we're suffering from right now in Nigeria. So I'll just encourage everyone. I'm not even up to 35 years old. I have been out of school for over 10 years. To God be the glory, I have been in paid employment. I have been able to run some jobs and here. But let me say this, we are privileged to be here. We're privileged to be able to read and write. There's still a lot of number of Nigerians that are not privileged to do that. Let us not sit in our privilege. Let's take it out there. Let's educate them, no matter how small. Someone should be able to think for themselves, and that's why they will need to read and write and think with their own minds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate. All right. Peter, please go ahead. Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
All right.
Peter.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, please. Yes, you are. Yes,
okay,
you
great.
are.
Thank you very much. To start with, Dr. Orlando, I have to appreciate you for this wonderful work you're doing. This is more than a CSR, if you ask me. I need to appreciate you and salute your tenacity and the spirit, the willful spirit that you have to bring this to the foreburners and put it at the doorstep of people for people to have access to information and gain insightful knowledge. That being said, now I think we all have a role to play.
Thank you very much.
We all are stakeholders in this game. We all are stakeholders. Either you're key, non-key, you have a role to play because for each puzzle, if one part of it is missing, it's not complete. And every one of us is just one attachment to that puzzle. Now, the likes of agencies like National Orientation Agency and all that. I was born in the North. I grew up in the North. Certain information were not even information I got from the home. I got some of them from the TV. I got some of them from the newspaper. But it's unfortunate how we've kind of derailed from the norms to what we have today. Now, this is a wake-up call for every one of us to realign ourselves. We have the world at our fingertips, and thank God for social media now, which can help us disseminate information to people. We need to start championing quite a number of things for people to know. I was surprised when I found myself in one interior part of Ibadan, and I was saying something, and the person could not comprehend what I was saying. And I had to look at myself again. We are in year 2024. 2024 is almost over. And this little information I'm actually trying to pass across to this person is not even known at all. This person does not even have an idea of what I'm saying. It means that there are quite a number of people who don't even have access to the world you are even talking about today. How much more do we now intend to drive them to that same world we want them to be? So the onus is on us. Government alone cannot do it. Fine, we keep on hammering that government have a lot to do and all that, but they need us. Government need us. They need people like Dr. Orlando, who is already doing something great, and they need every other participant in this class to do one thing or the other. The little thing you will do today will end up becoming that drop of water that will eventually form a mighty ocean. So fine, things might not be going the way you expect them, but please keep the faith alive, keep hope alive, keep doing something great. I'm fortunate to be in this class today. I never knew about this before. I just stumbled on it on LinkedIn and I said, okay, let me apply. I'm a safety guy. I'm a safety personnel. I've been working for quite a number of time. But coming to see people doing things like this is also another way of stirring up my spirit to know that yes, all hope is not being lost. We can still redeem the image of this nation and ourselves, and of course the world at large. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Orlando, for this. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other person? As we said here, Ayomide. Thank you very much. Ayomide, please go ahead. Thank you, sir. Before you go ahead, Ayomide, there are two, and then I'll take Rowan. There are two links, the feedback form and your exam link, everybody. Your exam link, you take it, you generate your certificate. So please look at those links. Okay, so please, Ayomide, please go ahead and I'll take Rowan very quickly.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And
Thank you, sir.
thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for impact. We've already praised you enough. So then whatever I say will still be an addition.
Thank you very much.
So, yes, sir. I remembered when you started, you made an emphasis on a scenario about a man then who had about 9 children and was even planning on having more. Presently, I work in the north. All right, I work with Lafarge, one of the plants in the north here. And a general scenario we see here in the north is that most of the families here, you see them with multiple children. In fact, it's just a normal thing to them. But how do they sustain? But they are sustaining themselves. How do they do this? You see, sir, that most of them, what they do is you can see someone earning 30,000 per month, but he has farms. He has farms of up to 3 farms. He plants in that farms multiple crops. And these crops is able to sustain himself. And this is maybe 15 children as much as possible all through the year. And this is, yes, sir, this is what's happening here, especially the North. And although I'm not really a supportive uh, person in terms of these multiple children of a thing, especially when you can't cater for their basic things like education and future plans for them. But I really admire that fact that they can still be able to sustain, so and take care of this. Yes, these multiple children. You see them coming out of the house and you're surprised. You say, is this a political gathering? But no, it's a family. And yes, sir. And everybody's eating, yes, and they are okay. So I believe this is another way we can look at it also when each of us
Very
also,
practical.
start having this mentality. Yes, sir, this practical mentality,
Very,
just like
very practical recommendation that can be implemented immediately. Oh, interesting.
exactly, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just like Anita Yakubu said. Yeah, if everyone now starts planting their crops, imagine, sir, we're already starting to eliminate poverty individually. And
Exactly.
another
Yeah,
funny fact is
absolutely.
this. These are the guys also driving the food economy in the nation. These are the not here. They are the ones who bring in beans, bring in a lot onions, tomatoes, pepper. All these are grown in their local farm environment here. So it's just a scenario I wanted to bring, and it all
Thank
starts with all of us as
thank
well.
you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, thank you for that. I mean, very practical that, I guess it's just the only challenge you might have is that, of course, in the urban areas and the cities, it's just a bit difficult because people don't have the land. They don't even have the land for many things as it is. So that might be a bit difficult. But for people who are in areas, everybody should probably own a farm. And that might be a very important thing to take into consideration. So once again, thank you for that. That's very practical, all of us can start implementing from tomorrow. Thank you for that, sir. All right, Real One, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Oh, Joy, it's okay, sir. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's
Please, can someone confirm I'm audible?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes,
Okay.
Real One. Yes, you
Okay,
are.
thank you for that. I'm calling from Lagos, Nigeria, and my name is Real One Zubai. I'm a occupational health and safety practitioner. Currently, I'm doing my MSc in SDG in final process in Ifon. So, because what actually make me have an interest in this SDG, we've been seeing it quite of times now that everywhere, sustainable development. So I was like, what is actually in this? So then I dive into it and I see it's a very, very interesting something that every one of us have to know, because it goes on about the impact of the life, the whole world generally. So we can't do without this, even though we try and look at a lot of things. So I stumbled upon if I share me this link, which is Samson Ajobiewe. So I think I'm going to give him that a plot on that. And I can say I'm really happy to be here. So now this is my input. Let me start from the previous speaker, the man that spoke now that put an input. Because our culture believed before those days now for in olden days, because we all farm. We farm, that is what we do in Nigeria here, particularly. That is what our own handwork here, because our grandparents they farm, and based on the historical background, because of support, that's the reason why they have a lot of children. And I believe some part of this country also are still putting sustainable to that, like the northern side. So where you see them, they have a lot of children to support them in farming. But in South here, I think many of us have reduced that. You see people are giving birth to like 3 or 4. Where do I want to have to train all of them? But in northern side, where they have farm that they know, they need support and so they give they have kind of the mentality that if you have a lot of children, you will be able to help them in farming. So I think we need in the farm, yes, now because if I have farm, you have farm, and everybody is looking after his own farm. So who is going to work for the children? So I think we need to change the mentality and the phrase that the world is changing. So we also need to change to that word. So now let me come to the second one again. So I say that in the chat box. Is there any way we can do this rearrangement? Because I can see the 17 SDG goals that is being arranged worldwide. This 17 SDG goal can actually goes along with some country, but it can't work in Nigeria here according to the arrangement, because they're asking us to number 1 here, which I'm seeing no poverty, and there's nothing in place to attack no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. There's nothing in place to attack zero hunger. This thing can work in other foreign country, European country, but in Africa here, particularly Nigeria here, I think there's a way we should rearrange these things. Let's tackle one at a time. If we are going to work on 16, which is to talk about peace, justice, and strong institutions, let our government implement these strong institutions. There should be peace and justice. If you can attack that, then number 2, we can now look at another one that we can work on. Before you number 1, number 2, which is no poverty. By the time we step to number 5, we arrange it. We will even put number 1, which is no poverty, in the list again, because those ones will have tackled those things. Zero hunger is something that brings good health and well-being. If there is a good hospitals everywhere, from the policy that government make, there's a good hospital. Our government also, they are not going outside the country to go and take care of it. Provide good hospital here. Gender equality, give everybody what is their right. Clean water, provide sanitation. You see, all these things won't be even on this list. We will be looking at another thing again that we can solve in this our country. Then the third one, which is something I really want to which is awareness. I'm right on the problem of this country. You have people that are not educated more than educated people. Am I right, sir, or wrong?
Yep. Absolutely. Without
now look at our ratio now. How many people in this ratio that are aware of what this SDG goes? So we need awareness. If I'm okay, and for example now, many of these SDG goals, some people, it's not all of them that they really want to look into. For example, now, let me tell you practically, for someone like me now, I can actually tell you, if out of these SDG goals, if God don't provide, say, no poverty and zero hunger in my life, what do you concern me with the rest? You see people, they will be telling you like that. If God don't come out no poverty, zero hunger, I don't have good health. What do you concern me? I don't have education. What I want to use affordable energy do? What do you concern me with this same one and economic goods? I want you to interrelate to themselves. So even though your own is not concerning on to reduce SDG, which is reduce inequality, at least we need to work to ourselves. We need to to do something for us to interrelate. So we need more awareness on this. I can tell you, majority of this our government, of this our government stakeholders in this government office. Yes, when I was tell you what am I doing on that water? If I need something, I will go outside and do it. But people are living, people are surviving on that life on that water.
Absolutely. Yep. Without a doubt.
People are fishing. People that are fishing out of that thing. People, their life depend on that. Someone like me, okay, let's say for example, I always work on land. What concern me with underwater? I can just take anything outside, maybe pure water and inside water. So we need a sustainable and awareness for everybody to be aware. Either you are a seller, either you are working in office, either you are any other area you are working. We need everybody to be on the same tone before we can achieve these things. So that is my own taking, sir. Thank you. And
Thank you very much.
And I really want to welcome you for this team. May God bless you, sir. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you. Amen. Thank you very much. Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. All right. Any other thoughts as we bring this to a close? I hope everybody has been able to reach the those two things. You have been able to click on the link for your exam so you can register. And also, please, the feedback form, if you don't mind, the feedback form that has already been shared. Any other thoughts as we bring this to a beautiful close? We hold webinars all the time. We've done webinars this year, maybe about 8 or 9. I think this is the last one that we're doing on SDG this year. This is definitely the last. I don't think we're doing any other thing this year. So if you look on the screen, you see the things we planned. Oh, please let this person not start to mark on my screen. No. Who is this? Right? So if you look at what it is that we're doing this year, next year. So we have a calendar and all this is free. All this is free. So we already have done goals 1 to 7 this year and we're holding this. But from next year, these are the things that we will be doing. So these are all the things we're going to be doing next year and it's all for free. Our organization does 2 critical things. So we also do the GRC side of things. And these are also the webinars that we're going to be doing next year. So you can click on the links, you can stay in touch with us on social media. You're going to get the opportunity to be able to come to drive, to enjoy these things. And they're usually very useful, they're usually very helpful, and they're usually also extremely impactful. We've got Esther and Philip, we call them Esther and Philip Sustainability. Now we also have Godwin and Oyin GRC, and then we have Abigail and Larry that are seated in Ghana, and they do everything as it is. All right, Abdul, are you on the call? Abdul, share your thoughts with me, being one of the representatives in Ghana. Abdul, please quickly, as we bring this to a close, I hope everybody is being able to get access to these things, but follow us on all our social media. Abdul, are you there? All right. Okay. Any other thoughts as we bring this to a close? Any other thoughts? Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. It's been great having you all here. So please, a big round of applause, everybody, to the team that has organized this. Please clap for them. Clap for them. Clap for the entire team that has organized this. Please, please clap for them. Please give them a round of applause in the chat room, everyone. They've literally broken their backs to be able to organize this. So all of them that are putting the time and the energy to ensure that this program goes well, they will keep in contact with you. Please do your exam. We're only going to put it up there for another 24 hours. After that, it will not be available any longer. And because it's an accredited course, we're also going to share the slides with you also in itself. So we have Esther and Philip, we have Onyeka and Godwin, we have Larry and Abigail, and of course Miwa, Bukola, and Edith that have all been supporting this initiative one way or the other in itself. So big thank you to all of them for all the time, all the effort that they have put into this. And to you too, our attendees, all right, thank you very much. I mean, if we organize this and you don't attend this, then it will not really be of any value. The only reason why this has been useful today is because all of you have taken out of your very busy schedules to be here. So we appreciate you. Thank you very much. God bless you all. If you don't mind, let's switch on our cameras. We'll take a picture together and we'll call it a day. We'll when you generate your certificate, I'm sure I almost have a feeling that before we close this call, somebody will probably finish their exam and share the certificate because it's an accredited certificate, right? It's accredited. There's as it is under the courses accredited by SNBP. So I'm sure somebody will share their certificate before we end this session. So please, if you don't mind, switch on your camera or stop sharing now. Thank you very much, everyone. And let's take a quick picture, if you don't mind, all right? Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's take a quick picture. Let me switch on my camera. It's definitely been great having you all here. And we look forward to seeing all of you in the year 2025. I mean, 2025 is like tomorrow, just in a couple of days. It'll be 2020. It'll be 2025. So I definitely look forward to seeing everybody. So if you don't mind, switch on your camera. We'll take a quick picture and then we'll be on our merry way. And have a good weekend thereafter. And we also expect that you all pass your exam. Please, the exam is very useful. You need to have that certificate. All of us should be champions. We should be championing. All of us should be championing SDG in our own sphere of influence. Each of us needs to be championing. That's why this is the champions course. Each of us is meant to be championing SDG in whatever sphere of influence that we have as it is. So it's definitely a good certificate, but it's not really about the certificate. That's not what the idea is. The idea is that you go ahead and start to champion this. I can see one of my senior colleagues, Professor Dr. Dr. Moyolu Atalabi. Thank you very much for being here. I'm sure you can champion a lot of this SDG things in your school, in LASU where you lecture, and I'm sure many others here are also from very great institutions in one place or the other in itself. I think Mr. Sukomi is also here. Thank you very much, as it is, and others that might also be in this room. All right, so let's do this. I hope. Thank you very much. Please, where are the people taking the pictures? How do you, Esther? Are you going to tile this, or what are you going to do so that we can get? Where is that tiling thing again? I've seen it. No. Gallery. Is it it's the gallery, right? Yeah. Hold on. Good. Yes. It's the gallery. All right. Esther, where are you? I can't even find you, the organizer of this. Oyin, right? I'll put this on, right? I've done the tiling here. Esther, Oyin, and every other person. We're going to do this in a minute. Thank you. All right. So where are you? Where is Esther and where is Oyin? All right, and every other person that is here. Thank you once again. We can't thank you enough for taking the time out to be here. So please get on with your exam. You shouldn't we'll leave this all the way till the weekend, but we expect that you would have sorted this out. You'd have done it between today and tomorrow, because by end of the weekend, we will take away the link for the exam. So please go. I hope you have completed your feedback form, and you can also then go ahead and take the exam in itself. So once again, thank you very much, everyone. It's been our pleasure. I wish you a brilliant and beautiful 2025, and I hope to see all of you in all our events and in all our meetings that we're going to be having, both on the sustainability side and even on the GRC side. So thank you once again. Let me go to the chat room and tell every other person too, happy 2025. Help me wish everybody a happy and beautiful 2025. All of us will be in that year safe and sound, hail and hearty in itself. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A round of applause to all of you for taking the time out to be here to join us in this session. Thank you very much. Bless you. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
From Energy
Pleasure.
Commission of Nigeria, Abuja. Thank you very much, organizers.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
I forgot to mention Faith that is in Abuja. She brought, as you mentioned, Energy Commission. It's Faith Aveka that brought the letter to you and all that.
Yeah,
so please,
thank
Faith,
you. Thank
Faith,
you
don't
so
be
much.
annoyed, right?
We appreciate.
Faith is the one that is seated in Abuja. So thank you, Faith.
You.
All right,
Thank you,
for bringing
Faith.
all the. Faith, thank you. Number 6 on my screen. Faith, thank you for bringing all the Abuja people onto this call, and we're happy to support you in whatever way, guidance, when we come up with the publications that we're working on, we'll definitely bring them to you as it is. So thank you very much, everyone. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless you, sir.
You too.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can.
Okay, I started answering the question before I went back. So coming back to it is taking me to number 1 again. How can I recover from where I stopped?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't build the portal. It's not us. It's the examination provider that does that. So I honestly don't know. Maybe you have to start it all over again. But since you did it before and you know the answers, then you can go through it, because internet sometimes is an issue. But yeah, I honestly don't have. I don't know. I don't have the answers to how it might have happened as it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, but please
sir,
go ahead. Yes, please go
sir,
ahead.
can I please ask you, what's the estimate to when your course, environmental and safety management, when will it be approved? Is there an estimate?
The one in Transformation College?
Yes, sir, in Transformation College. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're hoping that maybe by so the next session is September next year. So yeah, that's what we're hoping for. It can't be between. It has to start within the session. So we're working with them on the accreditation, but sometimes it takes a while, because even for these ones, it's taking us 2 years to get there. You know how some of these things pan out, right? So
Very well,
maybe by September, we'll keep working on it. We already put it on our website, but we can't admit people for it until we complete and get our accreditation. Okay.
Excuse me,
All right.
sir.
So,
Good afternoon.
Yes. Yeah. Yes,
Good
please go
afternoon,
ahead.
sir.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
Okay. My name is Hamsatu Kojafa from Energy Commission of Nigeria, Abuja.
Yes, ma. Yes,
Thank you.
ma.
Thank you so much for this impactful course, sir. My question is, I tried to log in to take the exams, but it's showing me to log in, but I don't know the password, and there's no provision
No,
for.
you have to create. You have to create an
Create
account.
it.
You have to create an account.
Create it.
You have to create an account. Maybe I can get Esther. She can share a
Okay.
screen, and then she can walk you through, or owing any of you guys. But you have to create an account before before you can do that in itself. So it's important. So that's the key thing. You need to create an account. If you don't create that account, you will not be able to do that. So and you can also Faith, you can put your number in the chat room. I'm sure you can reach out to Faith directly. But yeah, Esther, where are you guys? Oyin, where are you guys? Do you want to share your screen and show them how to create an account? Who are those that have started the exam as we speak? Who are
Yeah,
those that have started?
yeah, thank you very much, sir. Maria Mimido Abam from Energy Commission. We have started the exam, but we went back on your request to put our videos on, and we lost our answers. So
okay, so that's what happened.
I'm almost
we are
Oh,
going
you
to
should have
start
done it in a
over
separate.
again.
Oh no, you should have done it in a separate portal. I'm sorry, in a separate tab. So the challenge is that you should have the tab for the Zoom. You should have just opened the exam on a separate tab, because if you go back to the old, if you're using two tabs, the tab will not go away. The tab will not go away. That tab will still be there.
Yeah. I have a colleague here, Thomas, who said he doesn't want to snap. He's going to continue with his exam, and he's still on.
So if you had created it on the separate tab, it would
Okay.
still be
So
there.
we're still going to go
Well,
ahead.
it's fine. It's
We are
fine.
still
I mean,
going to
since
go.
you did the questions before, it won't be an issue. You are the one who did
And
it.
I hope you took the
So,
photograph. And I hope you
oh
took the
yes,
photograph.
the photograph that made you lose your photograph.
My exams, and so I'm going to write again, and I hope we all pass.
Oh, you will pass. I can guarantee you. This is an exam that was designed in such a way that you should pass. It's not a punitive exam. It hasn't been designed in such a way that you won't do well in it. So yeah, you will definitely pass.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's quite impactful. Looking forward to see you in 2025. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, ma. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
Amen, ma. Thank you very much. So once again, a big thank you to the team. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless you. Have a great remaining part of your week, and have a great weekend. Yeah, absolutely. You should have a great weekend. A weekend where you have your SDG certificate and you can celebrate, and you can also start thinking about how you're going to contribute. So you celebrate, and then also be thinking, how do I contribute to SDG as a person? How do I contribute to SDG as a person, as a family, as a department, as a unit? How can I contribute in my own sphere? Because all of us can sit and blame the government. We can do that. We can all sit here and blame the government. The government is always very easy to blame, but we all also have a part to play in this conversation. So yeah, we can keep pointing our fingers at the government, and of course, government has responsibility, but we also
have ours.
Some sort of responsibility towards these things. And instead of focusing on what we can't fix or what we cannot change, let's change the bits that it's under our own control to change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So for people that are having issues with logging in or signing in, please, I'll share my screen shortly so that I can walk you through the process. It's not very difficult, and it's very user friendly.
Okay.
We're
Thank you
expecting
very much.
that.
Please go ahead. Let's just give her some minutes. I'm sure she will get on it.
That's Esther, right?
Yes, that is Esther Sustainability. We have
Okay.
two Esthers. So this one is Esther.
Okay.
This one is Esther Sustainability.
Oh my goodness.
No, why don't you start from why don't you start from the okay, so this is it, right? So who is here? I mean, yeah.
So this is the interface that you're expected to see when you click on the link. You don't have an account. You're supposed to press login. I already have an account, that's why you're seeing this. But on this hand, you're supposed to see something that says register an account. Are we together? Can everybody see my screen?
We can see the screen, but we didn't see the register.
So when you click on register an account, it takes you to this interface. You put all your details. So for the purpose of this, I might be putting this.
Okay.
Your preferred username for me. Let me go with Esther Sustainability. Can we still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we together?
Yes.
All right. So for the context of this, it's a training program. You just fill this in. We agree by their terms and terms of service. I'm not a robot.
100%.
And you submit it.
Okay.
Yes. So it takes me back here and I start my exam.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So do we have
All
is
right.
somebody there right now? Can you confirm if you've done this? John Umar, can you confirm if you are able to log in now?
Maybe still.
I would like to believe that everybody have been able to register, to log in rather. Oh, I will share the link again. I'll drop it in the chat box and hopefully it shows you a registered account because that's what it's supposed to show you.
Okay, so we'll start this. type of infrastructure.
So, Mr. Lako, have you been able to log in?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
All right. All right. All right. Yusuf Sulaiman, have you been able to log in? I would like to believe that we've all been able to log in and we don't have any issues with logging in. Is that correct? Can we affirm that in the chat box?
Percentage.
It's not showing register an account.
Why? You go down. Why?
So let me share my screen.
Not being able to log in.
Why?
Yes,
Oh.
share my screen.
Oh, all right, that's fine then. All right, over to you, Oni of A4S.
Thank you.
Still not showing.
Okay, can you all see my screen? So this is the link to the examination platform. Well, there's no place where it's showing register. So my own is just, I didn't log in, but let me try and log out. Let's see. Okay.
Hi, Oyi. Okay, so when you click on login, it's supposed to show a registration box by the side.
Right.
Yes, I think that. Sir, can you try it on a different browser?
Yeah, try a different browser. Okay, if you've not been able to log in, is it possible to send us your email address? Just drop it in the chat box and then we'll send it to you. So we can reach out to you privately. All right, so let's bring this to a close. Please, for those that are still writing their exams, don't forget to download your certificates. And for those that have not been able to log in, we are going to send you the link again and send you a step-by-step tutorial on how to go about it. Okay, so a huge thank you to Dr. Orlando. I'm sure he's off the call. And a huge thank you to the team, to Esther and everyone working at the back end. So congratulations to each of you for completing the course. We're excited to see the impact you make with this. So let's stay connected as we work towards a sustainable future. Thank you all. Thank you for joining the session today, and you have a great day.
Which factors could